Chapter 1365. Sister. Bai Ming Ao exclaimed with a hopeless expression. The eyes of the clan leader of the Kitami clan dimmed as well as he sighed internally. It was not easy for the Kitami clan to produce a monster incarnate that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. To think that he would be killed by the 3 aristocratic families before he could even mature. Even Nangong Ling and the others could not make a move in time, let alone others. Furthermore, even if everyone from the Kitami clan managed to react, who could stop the Essence Spirit secret skill of a void reversion? No one. The burst of an Essence Spirit secret skill was extremely ferocious and had already descended almost instantly. On the stone platform, Bai Ming Shui could only watch this scene helplessly. She could not resist at all against a power of this level. No matter how strong her bloodline phenomenon was, it could not defend against an Essence Spirit secret skill. This was the suppression of a major cultivation realm. A void reversion could kill perfected Jin Dan with a single thought. All of a sudden, Kitsune felt her wrist heating up. Suddenly, 6 mysterious and vast Sanskrit chants rang out in her mind. Immediately after, a sacred golden light screen appeared around her body. Mysterious and ancient runes were engraved on it. It's the Buddha beads that Master gave me. A thought flashed through Kitsune's mind. In a flash, the 2 Essence Spirit secret skills of Shiminzei and Dongfang Yi descended and passed through Kitsune's bloodline phenomenon, colliding heavily against the golden barrier. When the 2 powers collided, the barrier trembled violently and ripples appeared on its surface. However, the entire process was silent. In the end, the 2 Essence Spirit secret skills failed to break through the defense of the golden barrier and dissipated silently. Kitsune's face was pale as she retreated a few steps. Although her bloodline phenomenon had already dissipated against the impact of the 2 Essence Spirit secret skills, she survived. Kitsune panted slightly with surprise and joy in her eyes. The golden barrier that enveloped her finally could not hold on any longer and dimmed, dissipating into nothingness as though everything earlier was an illusion. In midair, Shiminzei's eyes widened. The sneer on his face froze as he watched this scene in disbelief. The ferocity in Dongfang Yi's eyes had just risen, but it gradually turned into astonishment. The huge Shimin mountain villa, which was originally noisy and chaotic, suddenly became so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. All the cultivators stared at the young girl on the stone platform, dumbfounded. It was as if they had seen a ghost. How could this be? 2 void reversions had attacked and even used Essence Spirit secret techniques, but Kitsune was still alive? Just now, what had happened? Kitsune's body seemed to be covered by a layer of golden light. What was that? Countless questions surfaced in the minds of the cultivators. Nangong Ling's heart skipped a beat. Her divine sense swept over Kitsune's wrist, and she couldn't help but be shocked. Mingwang prayer beads. To think that Granduncle Master would value Aunt Master so highly that he would even give her the Mingwang prayer beads. Nangong Ling felt a deep sense of envy. Essence Spirit dermic weapons were extremely precious. As for the Mingwang prayer beads, they were supreme-grade Essence Spirit dermic weapons and were the cornerstone treasures of Daming Monastery in the past. In that short period of time, Shiminzei and Dongfang Yi gradually reacted as well. It's an Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Shiminzei narrowed his eyes and his gaze flickered. Although he did not know that it was the Mingwang prayer beads, based on his experience, he guessed that Kitsune was definitely wearing an extremely powerful Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Kitsune was only at the Jindan realm and it was impossible for her to use that Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Even so, the strength of that Essence Spirit dermic weapon alone was enough to defend against their 2 Essence Spirit secret skills. If that Essence Spirit dermic weapon were to fall into his hands, how much power would he be able to unleash? Almost instantly, Shiminzei and Dongfang Yi were tempted. Could this be the secret that the Bai Ming family is protecting? A thought flashed through Dongfang Yi's mind. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that there was a high chance that his guess was the truth. Even if Kitsune manages to avoid this calamity with the Essence Spirit dermic weapon, she won't be able to escape death. That's right. There are way too many ways for void reversions to kill her. The difference between the two of them isn't something that an essence spirit dermic weapon can make up for. Gradually, some voices sounded from the crowd. Cell *T, where did you get that essence spirit dermic weapon on you? On the other hand, Shiminze was in no hurry to attack and asked slowly. He had also thought that the essence spirit dermic weapon might have something to do with the secret guarded by the Baiming family. Therefore, he wanted to find out the truth from Kitsune. Kitsune's heart skipped a beat. She merely pursed her lips without saying anything. There was no way she was going to expose her master. She already knew that her master was severely injured in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley. His essence spirit was damaged and he could not even use his dermic powers, causing his combat strength to decrease immensely. If she were to expose her master's whereabouts now, it would be equivalent to putting him in a dead end. There was no need to wait for the super sex or primordial races outside. The strength of the three aristocratic families alone was enough to kill her master. You're not going to tell me? The corners of Shiminze's mouth curled up slightly. His expression was cold as he exuded the aura of a return to void stage cultivator. It's fine if you don't tell me. I, Shiminze, have many methods that can make you wish you were dead. Shiminze revealed a cruel smile. At that time, you'll kneel at my feet and beg me to kill you. I was the one who gave her that essence spirit dermic weapon. All of a sudden, a voice sounded from the crowd. It was calm but it reverberated through the entire place. Nangongling, Yu Hanyun and Ru Xian were shocked. The cultivators turned towards the voice. A green-robed man squeezed through the crowd from the Kidami clan and walked out slowly. This person had delicate features but his face was withered and yellow, as though he was severely ill. He looked extremely weak and did not have much cultivation. He did not look like a cultivator. However, this person's eyes were extremely bright and full of vigor. What are you doing? Don't send yourself to your death. When Baiming Ao saw Su Zimo stand out, he grabbed Su Zimo's arm instinctively. Without even looking at him, Su Zimo flung Baiming Ao's hand away with a light flick. He felt his palm go numb and could not exert any strength for a long time. Baiming Ao's mouth was agape with a stunned expression, unable to snap out of it for a moment. In that short period of time, Shiminze and Dongfang Yi had already scanned Su Zimo's body and did not sense any threat. The expressions of the two men quickly relaxed. Oh! Shiminze looked at Su Zimo with a mocking look in his eyes. He smiled gently and asked, "Who are you?" "I'm her master." Su Zimo pointed at Kitsune on the stone platform and said indifferently, "Haha." Shiminze and Dongfang Yi could not help but laugh. Many cultivators of the three aristocratic families laughed as well. The current situation was extremely obvious. Kitsune was already a dead person. At this moment, anyone who dared to stand out would have to die with her. Therefore, in their eyes, this green-robed man was a fool who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. At the spectator area, Nangongling, Yu Hanyun and Ru Xian did not laugh. The three of them looked at Shiminze and Dongfang Yi in silence. Their gazes were strange, as though they were looking at two dead people. Chapter 1366. Since you're her master, you gave her an essence spirit dermic weapon? Yes, that makes sense as well. Dongfang Yi nodded and looked at Su Zimo mockingly, asking with a smile, "So, what do you want to do now that you're standing out?" Su Zimo replied expressionlessly. Actually, he had no intention of making a move in the aristocratic family competition. However, the Shimin family and the Dongfang family were overbearing. Not only did more than 10 Jining Jinjuan attack Kitsune, 2 void reversions even took action personally. That crossed Su Zimo's bottom line. Most of the time, he could stand by idly and allow Kitsune to endure sufficient pressure. That would help her grow rapidly as well. However, the nature of things changed completely when void reversions took action. Even if his essence spirit was damaged, he was still Dao Lord Araki Takashi. He would not allow anyone to humiliate his disciple. Dongfang Yi could not help but laugh and ask again, "Who do you want to kill?" The moment that word left Su Zimo's mouth, he suddenly strode forward and stomped heavily on the ground. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The ground beneath Su Zimo's feet cracked from the impact. The surrounding crowd was caught off guard and almost fell to the ground. Their expressions were filled with shock. A figure rose from the ground, stirring up dust. In the blink of an eye, he arrived above the spectator area. Bai Ming-ao had a shocked expression as he raised his head to look at the figure in midair and murmured instinctively, Is he still human? This figure was way too different from the sickly figure in his mind. Su Zimo did not waste his breath on Dongfang Yi and leaped into midair. His black hair danced and his gaze was like a torch. He descended from the heavens like a god. How dare you? Dongfang Yi hollered with a shocked and furious expression. He really didn't think that this sickly-looking man would actually dare to attack him, and even be able to explode with such a terrifying power. Dongfang Yi's reaction was also very fast. His palm touched the storage bag, and a dark black spear was already in his hand. Dermic powers surged and the spear trembled, shimmering with 5 dermic patterns. It was a perfect grade Dao Being dermic weapon. Dongfang Yi hollered and conjured hand seals with his left hand while gripping the spear with his right. He stabbed toward Su Zimo. At the same time, a dermic art with his left hand burst. Boom! The Dharma spell was the first to descend, smashing heavily onto Su Zimo's chest. Dongfang Yi was overjoyed. Even the Dharma Taoist's body would not be able to withstand his dermic art. However, the moment the joy in Dongfang Yi's eyes they turned Dongfang's, Dong. That dermic art did not have any effect on Su Zimo at all. It was as though this person was completely fine. Although Su Zimo's bloodline was not strong, his body was not made of flesh and blood. Qinglian's true body was created with the foundation of a grade 6 creation Qinglian and the top dermic weapons of many super sects. The toughness of Qinglian's true body was comparable to Khanate Dao Lord dermic weapons. The dermic art of a void reversion could not affect him at all. Against the incoming spear, Su Zimo suddenly reached out and gripped the cold tip of the spear in a flash, thrusting it forward viciously. A tremendous force surged over. Dongfang Yi's palm could not grip the spear at all. The spear slid in his palm. Dongfang Yi shuddered and lowered his head slowly. A gigantic hole was created in his chest by Su Zimo's spear and the bloody end of the spear protruded from his back. His heart had already been pierced by the spear and his blood qi was draining rapidly. Dongfang Yi's eyes flashed with disbelief. All of a sudden, his vision blurred as though a figure had flashed by. Not good, Dongfang Yi exclaimed. As a paragon of the Dongfang aristocrat family, he reacted extremely quickly and chose to release his essence spirit right away. A divine light flew out from above his head, wanting to escape into the distance. However, before he could truly leave his body, a huge shadow enveloped him. Su Zimo's palm slapped Dongfang Yi's head. That palm strike shattered Dongfang Yi's head and his essence spirit was shattered into pieces as well. He was destroyed on the spot and died. Just now, the insufferably arrogant commander of the Dongfang aristocrat family, Dongfang Yi, was slapped to death in front of everyone. From the moment Su Zimo attacked to Dongfang Yi's death, the entire process took less than 3 breaths. The eyes of the crowd nearly popped out of their sockets. Why, how dare you? Shimanzei pointed at Su Zimo and his voice trembled subconsciously. He could sense an extremely dangerous aura from Su Zimo. Hand over your life as well. Su Zimo's gaze was like lightning as he strode forward. Without any unnecessary movements, he punched straight at Shimanzei's face. The aura of that punch was way too ferocious and Shimanzei did not dare to take it head-on in his fear. A bronze mirror flew out from his glabella. Buzz. Shimanzei channeled his spirit consciousness. The bronze mirror expanded rapidly against the wind and blocked in front of him, almost forming an indestructible shield with 6 dermic patterns shimmering on it. A Khanate Dao Being dermic weapon. In Shimanzei's opinion, as long as he could defend against Su Zimo's attack, he would be able to escape. The Dharma Dao Jun in the villa must have noticed such a huge commotion. By the time the Dharma Dao Jun arrived, this person would definitely die. As those thoughts flashed through Shimanzei's mind, Su Zimo's fist had already struck the bronze mirror heavily. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Shiminze shuddered. Sniff. Immediately after, he heard a strange sound, as though something had shattered. The next moment, his vision darkened and he felt a sharp pain in his head before losing consciousness. In fact, he did not even understand how he died. However, the other cultivators saw it clearly. Compared to Dongfangyi, Shiminze died even faster. Shiminze summoned the bronze mirror and Su Zimo punched it. The punch had penetrated the copper mirror. The Khanate Dao Bing dermic weapon was penetrated by Su Zimo's body. That punch penetrated the bronze mirror and landed on Shiminze's face, smashing his head into mush and destroying his essence spirit on the spot. Once again, the heavens and earth fell into a brief silence. The cultivators felt as though their throats were gripped by a pair of invisible hands. They could not breathe at all. Everyone's faces were filled with fear, horror, and shock. Among the cultivators of the three aristocratic families, the ones with the highest cultivation realms were only void reversions, Dongfangyi, Shiminze, and Nangongling. In their hearts, void reversions were definitely high and mighty existences that were difficult to reach. However, in the blink of an eye, 2 void reversions were reduced to corpses. Furthermore, the 2 commanders were hammered to death with their fists. The Foundation Establishment cultivators, perfected being Jin Dan and even Jining Jinjuan, had never seen someone so decisive in killing. All of them were pale with fright and froze on the spot, not daring to move. Chapter 1367. Bai Ming-ao looked at the green figure and his mind was in a mess. He was completely dumbfounded. The sickly and frail Mr. Su had vanished completely and there was only a single image left in his mind. It was Su Zimo descending from the skies like a god and killing 2 void reversions. Bai Ming-ao had never seen such power before. When he recalled how he had scolded and mocked this person many times, Bai Ming-ao felt a sense of lingering fear and regret. Thankfully, Mr. Su was magnanimous. If it was anyone else, Bai Ming-ao would have died even if he had 10 lives. Sister, you're under this Mr. Su's tutelage? Bai Ming-ao gradually understood. No wonder Sister changed so much in 3 years and could even suppress Jining Jinjuan. So, it's all because of Mr. Su. It would be a lie to say that Bai Ming-ao was not envious. However, although he was young, he knew that he would never have the chance to be under the tutelage of Su Zimo due to his poor attitude towards him previously. Not to mention Bai Ming-ao, even Bai Ming-shui was standing on the stone platform in a daze. She was somewhat unable to regain her senses, and her eyes were filled with shock. Although she was under Su Zimo's tutelage, she had never seen Su Zimo attack before. Initially, she thought that Su Zimo's combat strength was greatly reduced because he could not even release dermic arts due to his injured essence spirit. However, she did not expect that Su Zimo would be able to kill 2 void reversions on the spot without using his essence spirit or releasing any dermic arts. Looking at that seemingly skinny figure with a torrential aura, Kitsune suddenly had the urge to burst into tears. She had suffered countless grievances over the years. However, no one had helped her or stood out to shield her from the storm. But at that moment, there was someone standing in front of her and blocking all harm for her, even going against the ancient aristocratic families. Araki Takashi. My master is Dao Lord Araki Takashi. He is the one and only Dao Lord Araki Takashi. Kitsune was agitated and her eyes turned red. On the other side, Nangongling shook her head and sighed. In the end, it still came to this. Nangongling looked worried. Before this, he had reminded Shiminze and Dongfangyi several times not to be overbearing and not to overdo it. However, the 2 of them still didn't listen to his words and ended up provoking this person. They went too far. Ru Xian said, even an outsider like me can't stand it. As a void reversion, what's the big deal about killing a perfected Jin Dan? Yu Hanyun glanced at Nangongling and said softly, what senior brother is worried about is the Nangong clan's choice. Nangongling nodded and did not say anything. Boom, boom, boom. Right then, powerful auras burst forth from various parts of the villa, causing the world to quake. Where did this thief come from? How dare he act so insolently in our Shimin villa? You must have a death wish. A series of hollers sounded. Most of the cultivators present were Foundation Establishment cultivators and perfected Gene Dan. When such a massive spirit consciousness suppression enveloped them, all the cultivators felt their hearts skip a beat. Dharma characteristic realm. That was a spirit consciousness suppression that only Dharma Dao Jun could release. Even the void reversion realm was a realm that most cultivators could not reach. Dharma characteristic realm was an existence that all cultivators looked up to. Some of the cultivators present had never seen Dharma Dao Jun up till this point of their cultivation. To think that more than 10 Dharma Dao Jun would appear at the same time today. Dao Lord Purple You. Nangong Ling recognized the Dharma Dao Jun in the lead right away and could not help but exclaim. Dao Lord Purple You was a Dharma Dao Jun who was extremely famous among the 3 aristocratic families. 2,000 years ago, Dao Lord Purple You traveled to the Middle Continent and formed a feud with a Dharma Dao Jun of Illusion Fiend cult and fought. That Dao Lord of Illusion Fiend cult was once ranked 62nd on the Dharma characteristic ranking. However, Dao Lord Purple You emerged victorious in that battle. That was also the battle that made Dao Lord Purple You famous. Rumor has it that Dao Lord Purple You's combat strength was at least in the top 30 of the Dharma characteristic ranking. That was 2,000 years ago. To think that Dao Lord Purple You would be cultivating in Shimen Villa and would be alarmed now. Senior Purple You. Nangong Ling shouted and bowed, saying in a deep voice, "This is an important matter. Senior, please gather the elders of the clan for a discussion and think carefully before you act." Nangong Ling could not expose Su Zimo's identity. However, her words were a reminder to Dao Lord Purple You to stop and not act rashly. Pumph. Dao Lord Purple You sneered, "What a joke! A thief is killing wantonly in my Shimen Villa and you want me to think twice?" Even if Dao Lord Purple You could tell what Nangong Ling meant, he would not take it to heart. Even if the Dharma Dao Jun of the Nangong family was here, he would definitely kill this green-robed cultivator, let alone a junior like Nangong Ling. Dao Lord Purple You looked at Su Zimo with a cold expression and said slowly, "I don't care what background you have or which sect you're from. How dare you kill in Shimen Villa? Even if you're a disciple of a super sect, you'll have to pay with your life." Nangong Ling sighed internally. Dao Lord Purple You did not realize who he was facing. How many titular disciples and conjoint body mighty figures of super sects had died in the Dao inheritance ground, let alone disciples of super sects? "You want to kill me?" Su Zimo raised his head slightly and looked at Dao Lord Purple You with a mocking expression. "Kill him." Dao Lord Purple You did not waste his breath on Su Zimo and waved his hand, giving the order. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Dermic weapons tore through the air one after another. Dermic powers surged around the Dao Lord Dermic weapons and almost covered the skies, sealing off all of Su Zimo's escape routes. With a cold expression, Su Zimo ignored the incoming Dao Lord Dermic weapons and soared into the air. "How dare you ignore Dao Lord Dermic weapons? You must have a death wish." The expressions of the dozens of Dharma Dao Jun turned cold. Bang, bang, bang. One after another, Dermic weapons struck Su Zimo's body. However, they did not pierce his body as the Dharma Dao Jun had expected. On the contrary, many Dao Lord Dermic weapons were repelled. Be it flying swords, cold spears or bronze mirrors, none of the Dao Lord Dermic weapons could pierce Su Zimo's flesh. The crowd was shocked. This scene had completely exceeded everyone's understanding. Even Dao Lord Purple You and the others were shocked, let alone the low-level cultivators present. Among the Dao Lord Dermic weapons just now, there was no lack of perfect-grade Dao Lord Dermic weapons. However, perfect-grade Dao Lord Dermic weapons could not even pierce the green-robed cultivator's skin, let alone kill him. Furthermore, in the instant of just now's collision, the green-robed cultivator did not release any dermic arts or talismans and merely resisted with his body. Could a person's body truly be cultivated to such an invulnerable state? Suddenly, Dao Lord Purple You understood the deeper meaning behind Nangong Ling's words just now. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Chapter 1368. Boom. While one of the Dharma Dao Jun was distracted, Su Zimo had already closed in and punched the Dao Lord's head. The Dharma Dao Jun died on the spot. Although the bloodline of Qinglian's true body was not strong, her body was comparable to Khanate Dao Lord Dermic weapons and was indestructible. The Dharma Daojuan's body could not withstand that punch. In a flash, Su Zimo arrived before another Dharma Daojun and exuded a shuddering malevolent aura with a ferocious gaze. The moment the Dharma Daojun met Su Zimo's gaze, he was scared out of his wits and felt chills run down his spine. Who was Su Zimo? In the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, how many conjoint body mighty figures of the various super sects and primordial races died in his hands, let alone the Dharma Daojun? Although Su Zimo's essence spirit was injured, his aura did not change at all. The Dharma Daojun was intimidated by Su Zimo's aura and reacted slightly slower. As such, he was slapped on the head by Su Zimo and died on the spot. In the blink of an eye, 2 Dharma Daojun were dead. The fall of Shiminze and Dongfang Yi had already caused the cultivators present to feel an unprecedented shock, as if the sky had collapsed and the earth had sunk. But now, with the death of 2 Dharma-characteristic Dao Lords, all the cultivators were dumbfounded. Those high and mighty experts who only existed in legends and were unreachable fell from midair right before their eyes with their life force extinguished. The sickly-looking cultivator killed those Dharma-characteristic experts without any hesitation or fear. It was as though the Dharma Daojun were no different from ants in his eyes. Good, good, good. Dao Lord Purple Yu was enraged as he said coldly, "How dare you start a massacre in Shimin Villa? I'm going to skin you alive and grind your bones into ashes." Boom. Dao Lord Purple Mountain attacked brazenly and a purple mountain flew out from his glabella. It expanded against the wind and instantly turned into a towering purple mountain. A Khanate Dao Lord artifact. He had found this purple mountain in an ancient ruin. It had followed him for many years, and that was where his Dao name came from. Go! Dao Lord Purple Mountain pointed forward. The purple mountain descended with a rumble, and a large shadow shrouded the entire Shimin Manor. It emitted a terrifying pressure, and its momentum was terrifying. The crowd of cultivators was indescribably shocked. Many cultivators couldn't even withstand the pressure and fled into the distance. This purple mountain seemed to want to crush all the living beings in the villa into a bloody pulp. There was nowhere to run. Boom! The purple mountain suddenly stopped. Right in front of the crowd, a skinny figure stood beneath the purple mountain. He raised his arm and supported the towering mountain motionlessly. Compared to the purple mountain, Su Zimo's figure was as insignificant as a speck of dust. However, no matter how much Dao Lord Purple Mountain channeled his dermic powers, he could not suppress Su Zimo. Humph! Su Zimo sneered and stomped on the ground with one foot. With a boom, he soared into the air with the purple mountain. Swoosh! Carrying the purple mountain, Su Zimo charged towards a Dharma Daojun in the distance. The Dharma Daojuan's expression changed starkly. Suddenly, a phantom appeared from his body and rose rapidly. It was 60 feet tall and stood upright, emitting a powerful aura. Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic. The strongest technique of the Dharma Daojun. Boom! The moment the Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic was released, the purple mountain collided with it. The Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic dissipated instantly. The body of the Dharma Daojun was also shattered by the purple mountain. Even his essence spirit could not escape and he died on the spot. 3 Dharma Daojun were already dead. Bang, bang, bang. Sensing the pressure, the remaining Dharma Daojun hurriedly channeled his essence spirit and released his Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic, causing phantoms to surge into the skies one after another. Dao Lord Purple Mountain's Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic was 86 feet tall. Dressed in purple robes, it was the most eye-catching, like a gigantic fiend celestial. Almost at the same time, many Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristics attacked in an earth-shaking manner. Bang, bang, bang. The gigantic fists and weapons of many Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristics exploded on Su Zimo's body. However, there were no injuries on Su Zimo's body. At that moment, Qinglian's true body revealed its strength. Unless it was a peerless monster incarnate of the Dharma characteristic realms such as Dao Lord Hatred or Monk Daming, there was no way they could injure the foundation of Qinglian's true body. Against the encirclement of many heaven and earth Dharma characteristics, Su Zimo relied on Qinglian's true body to push through and attacked consecutively. Another 3 Dharma Daojun died. Everyone, release your essence spirit's secret skills. Dao Lord Purple Mountain's face was pale as he roared. That was his final resort. Cultivators would not use essence spirit's secret skills unless necessary in a fight. But now the green-robed cultivator was invulnerable to weapons, fire and water. They had no way of attacking him and felt a sense of helplessness. Be it their dermic arts or dermic weapons, none of them could break through his defense. Only essence spirit's secret skills could ignore his physical body and kill his essence spirit directly. A series of terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuations appeared in the void. Although it was silent, it was filled with fatal killing intent. Not good. Kitsune's heart skipped a beat. The Buddha beads on her wrist was clearly her master's essence spirit dermic weapon. Now that her master's essence spirit was injured and he did not have that essence spirit dermic weapon, how could he defend against the attacks of essence spirit's secret skills? She wanted to head forward and return the Mingwang prayer beads to Su Zimo. But now, the Dharma Daojun was the one attacking. Even Jining Jinjuan, a void reversion, would find it difficult to approach a battlefield of this level, let alone a perfected being Jin Dan like her. Just the might of the battlefield alone was enough to suppress her to the point that she could not move at all. Bai Mingshui could only watch on helplessly as this scene unfolded before her eyes. Master! Bai Mingshui wanted to open her mouth and shout. However, the moment she opened her mouth, she realized that her voice was instantly erased by the surrounding spirit consciousness fluctuations and turned into nothingness. Sensing the descending essence spirit's secret skills, Su Zimo had a mocking expression. He did not dodge, defend, or counterattack. One after another, essence spirit's secret skills surged into his consciousness and collided with his essence spirit. All of a sudden, a faint green mist spread out from his essence spirit with a strange power and devoured all the essence spirit's secret skills. When the essence spirit's secret skills entered Su Zimo's consciousness, they were devoured by the life-severing curse without causing any ripples. The life-severing curse was released by a mighty figure of the witch race after he sacrificed his essence spirit. Even though most of it was neutralized by Qinglian's sword, the remaining power was not something that the Dharma Daojuan's essence spirit's secret skills could defend against. Su Zimo was infected by the life-severing curse. This layer of curse power covered his primordial spirit, forming a curse barrier that could cut off his connection with the heavens and earth. The curse barrier had clearly strengthened after devouring the power of the essence spirit's secret skills. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. Previously, he had the bold idea of using a conjoint body mighty figure to break the power of the life-severing curse. But now, it seemed like that idea was impossible. The life-severing curse would only grow stronger after devouring other spirit consciousnesses, and his situation would only worsen. Chapter 1369. He's fine. Dao Lord Purple Yu's face was pale and his eyes shone with fear. There was no way to attack. Be it dermic arts, dermic weapons, or essence spirit secret skills, none of them could injure this person. Dao Lord Purple Yu and the other remaining Dharma Daojun used their movement techniques and fled into the distance. Standing in midair, they distanced themselves from Su Zimo and did not dare to advance rashly. All of the Dharma Daojun were already frightened and no longer had their initial arrogance and ruthlessness. Su Zimo sneered internally and did not continue chasing after them. After all, his essence spirit was damaged and he could not use dermic powers. He could not even fly through the air. Just now, he was merely relying on the burst of his physical body to fight the Dharma Daojun in melee combat. Now that the Dharma Daojun had fled far away, it would take him a lot of time and effort to chase after them. It wouldn't be long before news of today's incident spread throughout the 3 aristocratic families. At that time, a conjoint body mighty figure would be alerted and the situation would no longer be under his control. Qinglian's true body could not use dermic powers. If a conjoint body mighty figure were to attack with their full strength, they would definitely be able to threaten him. Follow me and leave this place first. Su Zimo came to Kitsune's side and whispered. Bai Ming Shui didn't say a word. She just nodded and followed him. Fufu. Right then, a chuckle sounded from the villa. Immediately after, an extremely terrifying aura spread out and descended, enveloping the entire Shimin villa. The might that the Dharma Daojun emitted just now was completely different compared to this spirit consciousness. The cultivators were shocked and could not move at all, merely widening their eyes. Even the Dharma characteristic realm was beyond the imagination and understanding of most cultivators. The arrival of this aura caused the cultivators to fall silent. They could not imagine what sort of major figure was alarmed. Not good. Nangong Ling's heart skipped a beat. Some low-level cultivators might not be able to tell. However, after joining 100 Refinement Sect, he had come into contact with a mighty figure of extreme fire and was extremely familiar with the aura. This was the power of the conjoint body realm. Yu Han-yun sent a voice transmission with a grim expression. Things are bad. There's a conjoint body mighty figure hidden in this villa. If Granduncle Master was not injured and was only a conjoint body mighty figure, they would naturally not be worried. But now, his essence spirit was damaged and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Against a conjoint body mighty figure, he would most likely be doomed. Unknowingly, a thin and withered old man had already arrived in midair. No one noticed when that figure had appeared. It was as if he had been standing there the entire time. Even though this figure was small and thin, it seemed as if it had already fused into one with the heavens and the earth. It stood in the air and emanated an unparalleled aura. The crowd looked up at this figure and felt as though they were facing the entire world. Greetings, Elder Chiu. When Dao Lord Purple Yu and the others saw the old man, they were elated and the fear in their hearts dissipated as they bowed hurriedly and shouted. Elder Chiu nodded slightly and swept his gaze across the messy battlefield. Finally, his gaze landed on Su Zimo and he said with a cold expression, Fellow Taoist, you started a massacre in the territory of the Shimin family for no reason. Now, you want to turn around and leave without saying anything? For no reason? Su Zimo was expressionless. 2 void reversions of the Shimin family and Dongfang clan joined forces to kill my disciple. Isn't that a reason? That's the reason. Elder Chiu smirked with a mocking expression. Even if your disciple isn't dead, so what if we kill her? If we kill her, these people won't be the only ones to die, Su Zimo said slowly. If she dies here, everyone from Shimin Villa will have to die with her. How dare you? Insolent. What big words. The expressions of Dao Lord Purple Yu and the others changed starkly as they hollered. The Shimin family had dominated the southern region for eons and had never been threatened as such. You've truly got guts. Killing intent surged in Elder Chiu's eyes as well. Now, I'm curious. Given your capabilities, you shouldn't be a nobody. Who are you exactly? How dare you threaten the Shimin family as such? Elder Chiu was already filled with killing intent. No matter what background the green-robed cultivator claimed, he would definitely die. If the green-robed cultivator was allowed to cause a ruckus and escape unscathed, what would happen to Shimin Villa's reputation? How would they establish themselves in the cultivation world of the southern region in the future? Even if this person was a disciple of a super sect, he would have to pay with his life today. A terrifying dermic power fluctuation surged around Elder Chiu and the entire world trembled. In the skies, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as though the apocalypse had arrived. The cultivators below trembled in fear and did not dare to speak. Even a vast ocean would not be able to quell the wrath of a mighty figure. Su Zimo's expression was indifferent as he looked at Elder Chiu, who was in midair, and spoke slowly with a single word. I am Araki Takashi. The moment those words were said, the air in the world froze instantly. It was as though those words possessed a powerful demonic power that caused even time to stop. After the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, the Dao title Araki Takashi was almost a taboo for the entire cultivation world. Most conjoint body mighty figures such as the Dharma Daojun were not even willing to talk about it. Dao Lord Purple Yu and the others were already pale with fright and nearly fell from midair. Suddenly, they recalled the descriptions of Araki Takashi in the cultivation world. He was dressed in green robes and had black hair, looking like a frail scholar. Many of his appearances were too similar to this person before them. The only difference was that this person looked a little sickly. Araki Takashi. It was Tao Lord Araki Takashi. Tao Lord Araki Takashi was exiled into the void by a half-martial ancestor, but he did not die. Furthermore, he had descended into the southern region. Just now, Elder Chiyo was still murderous. However, his pupils constricted when he heard those words, and the dermic powers in his body dissipated instantly like a punctured balloon. Elder Chiyo felt his limbs turn cold and he could not move anymore. Although he was unwilling to believe it, he knew very well that this person was Araki Takashi. That aura, gaze and aura that looked down on everything was something only Tao Lord Araki Takashi was worthy of. That was a killing aura that was accumulated after killing countless paragons, monster incarnates and Tao Lord mighty figures. Others could not imitate it even if they wanted to. After thinking through that, Elder Chiyo's first reaction was to turn and flee. How many people died in the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley? Even Tao Lord mighty figures of the primordial races suffered heavy losses, let alone the conjoint body mighty figures of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend super sects. Although he was at the conjoint body realm, he was already in his later years. Given his combat strength, Araki Takashi could kill him with a single finger. Right now, it was already an immense amount of courage for him to suppress the fear in his heart and stand in midair without retreating, let alone attack Su Zimo. Chapter 1370. Let's go. Su Zimo nodded to Baiming Shui, then turned around and walked out of Shimen Manor. The crowd of cultivators immediately parted to form a path far away, as if they were trying to avoid something. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo and Kitsune had already disappeared from everyone's sight. Right from the beginning, no one from the Shimen family or Dongfang aristocrat clan stood out to stop them. Even Elder Chiyo, who was at the conjoint body realm, merely stood in midair with a terrible expression without saying a word. If anyone focused their attention, they would notice that Elder Chiyo's hands behind his back were trembling slightly. A long time after Su Zimo left, Elder Chiyo finally heaved a sigh of relief. A gentle breeze blew and unknowingly, his back was drenched in sweat. He was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. From the moment he said those words to his departure, it had only been half an incense stick's time. However, in Elder Chiyo's senses, it felt as though 100 years had passed. It was as though he had taken a trip to the gates of hell and was already halfway there. Thank goodness, panting slightly, Elder Chiyo's face was pale as he lamented internally, to think that it would be Tao Lord Araki Takashi. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? This can't be blamed on me. No! Elder Chiyo gulped and thought to himself, Araki Takashi's arrival in the southern region is too big of a matter. I have to report it to the clan master, elders and grand elders to make a decision. At that thought, Elder Chiyo's figure flashed and he transformed into a streak of light that sped into the distance, vanishing before everyone's eyes instantly. Nangong Ling and the other two heaved a sigh of relief as well. Nangong Ling came before the Kidami clan and said in a deep voice, "You guys should leave as well. This matter has huge implications. If you guys stay here, there might be other changes." The clan leader of the Kidami clan nodded hurriedly. Baiming Ao mustered his courage and asked softly, "Senior Nangong, did you protect us earlier because of Su Xian? Senior Araki Takashi?" Nangong Ling nodded and did not hide anything. She said, "Araki Takashi is our martial granduncle. Your sister is my martial aunt." Baiming Ao's mouth was agape. For a moment, he was a little confused. He couldn't figure out the relationship between the two. After all, too many things had happened today. Not to mention a teenager like him, even the Dharma Daojun, who had lived for thousands of years, was shocked by one thing after another. Nangong Ling continued, "The two perfect grade spirit artifacts you're using are our gifts to martial aunt." No wonder, Baiming Ao murmured as the doubts in his heart were gradually resolved. He finally understood why his sister had a perfect spiritual artifact. He also finally understood why his sister was able to cultivate her martial arts to such a level in just 3 years' time. She had been reborn. That was because the frail man who had been recuperating in their house all these years was the legendary and infamous Dao Lord Araki Takashi. Wu Dao was founded by Araki Takashi. Who else could understand Wu Dao better than Dao Lord Araki Takashi? At that moment, Baiming Ao's prejudice against Su Zimo vanished completely and was replaced by endless admiration. He had never seen anything as such. A single Dao title was enough to turn all the cultivators in the massive Shimin villa into mutes. Even conjoint body mighty figures who stood at the peak of the cultivation world did not dare to utter a single word upon hearing that Dao title, let alone Jining Jinjuan and Dharma Daojun. Even conjoint body mighty figures were silent out of fear that they would anger Araki Takashi and bring about a fatal disaster. To think that the deterrence of a Dao title could reach such a level. Senior Nangong, Baiming Ao's heart skipped a beat as he thought of an opportunity for the Baiming family and could not help but ask, since sister is senior's martial aunt, will the Nangong family stand on her side and help our Kidami clan this time round? Nangong Ling sighed gently and did not say anything. This was also where he was in a difficult position. He could stand on the side of Granduncle Master and Kitsune, but he might not be able to convince his family to agree to this choice. If the Nangong family was involved in the feud with Granduncle Master, he would be in an awkward situation. I have to hurry back and report this to the family master as well. After saying that, Nangong Ling left with Yu Hanyun and Ru Xian. Everyone from the Nangong family retreated from Shimin Villa as well. Why are you in such a hurry? In midair, Ru Xian could not help but ask. Nangong Ling said in a deep voice, Granduncle Master's arrival in the southern region is a huge matter to begin with and we have to report it to the family. Furthermore, there's no way we can hide the fact that Granduncle Master is injured. Yu Hanyun nodded as well. Elder Chiu of the Shimin family was merely frightened by Granduncle Master's Dao title and lost his judgment. If he reports the matter of the manor truthfully, the patriarch and elders of the Shimin family will be able to see things clearly. They will definitely notice the abnormality. Ru Xian had an anxious expression. Doesn't that mean that Granduncle Master is in danger? It's extremely possible, Yu Hanyun said, if the Shimin family and Dongfang family join forces and want to take advantage of Granduncle Master's injured essence spirit to lead their conjoint body experts over, Granduncle Master will most likely be doomed. If a half-martial ancestor attacks, Granduncle Master will have an even harder time escaping. Nangong Ling sighed with a worried expression as well. A half-martial ancestor will attack as well? Ru Xian was shocked and asked instinctively. Normally speaking, most of those who cultivated to the half-martial ancestor realm would cultivate in seclusion in their sects and strive to enter the ancestor realm. They would rarely appear. Nangong Ling said, This matter is extraordinary. After all, it involves Granduncle Master and there's a high chance that a half-martial ancestor expert will be alerted. What should we do? Ru Xian was anxious. Why don't we send a message back to the Middle Continent immediately and ask Grandmaster Extreme Fire to appear? It's too late, Nangong Ling shook her head. The South region and the Middle Continent are billions of kilometers apart. Grandmaster will have to rush over even if we send a message back. How many days will it take? Furthermore, even if Grandmaster comes, he will be weak alone. He has just entered the mid-stage conjoint body realm. How many people can he defend against? I'm afraid your Nangong family is the only one who can save Granduncle Master. Yu Hanyun analyzed with a calm expression. Ru Xian nodded hurriedly as well. If the Nangong family stands on Granduncle Master's side, even if the Dongfang family and Shimin family join forces, they might not be able to hurt Granduncle Master. It's hard to say, Nangong Ling sighed. The three aristocratic families have always been on good terms and are united. It's unrealistic for the Nangong family to help an outsider. Furthermore, Granduncle Master's identity is special and is not tolerated by the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend Daos. He's being hunted down by the primordial races. After weighing the pros and cons, it's almost impossible for the Nangong family to help Granduncle Master. Pausing for a moment, Nangong Ling took a deep breath of air. No matter what, I have to return and give it a try. As for whether I can succeed, it'll depend on fate. I hope that Granduncle Master will be blessed by the heavens and resolve this crisis. Chapter 1371. Master, your actions this time round have severed ties with the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families. I'm afraid it's going to be difficult to resolve this matter. Kitsune analyzed with a worried expression. That conjoint body mighty figure was scared off by your reputation. However, the three aristocratic families have dominated the South region for a long time and have many experts in their families. As long as they gather and discuss, they might be able to discover the truth, Master. Master, you've done so much for me and I'm grateful for your kindness. However, now that a calamity is upon us, please leave first and don't bother about me, Master. Kitsune knew that given Su Zimo's current strength, even if he could not use dermic powers, it was extremely easy for him to leave this place with his powerful physique. However, if he brought her along, she would only be a perfected being Jean Dan and it would be wishful thinking for the two of them to escape the South region. Su Zimo had a calm expression. You don't have to worry about this. I have my own arrangements. When Kitsune heard Su Zimo say that, she did not persuade him anymore. However, Kitsune was still frowning, as though she had something else on her mind. Are you still worried? After the two of them walked for a while, Su Zimo asked with a smile when he saw Kitsune lowering her head as though she was troubled. Master? Kitsune looked at Su Zimo and hesitated. When Su Zimo saw Kitsune's strange expression, he paused in his tracks and turned to ask, why? Did something happen? Kitsune took a deep breath of air. Master, in Shimen Manor, I fought with some Jining Jinjuan of the Dongfang aristocratic family and entered Wu Dao's 9th transformation, the power of Dragon Elephant. Thereafter, I cultivated a bloodline phenomenon as well. Yes, Su Zimo nodded. Speaking of which, your bloodline phenomenon is truly shocking. There's a terrifying demon beast hidden in the North Sea. If I'm not wrong, there's a high chance that this demon beast is one of the primordial 9 races, the Kuan race. Kitsune's expression was slightly dazed as she said, I'm not sure either, but the moment the bloodline phenomenon erupted, I faintly felt that something in Baiming Town seemed to be summoning me. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he narrowed his eyes in deep thought. Do you still have this feeling? Su Zimo asked. Kitsune nodded. Go. Let's go take a look at Baiming Town. Su Zimo said and sped up with Kitsune towards Baiming Town. It didn't take long for them to return to Baiming Town. How is it? Su Zimo asked. Kitsune closed her eyes and sensed for a while before nodding. It should be here, but I'm not sure what it is exactly. What's so special about Baiming Town? Su Zimo looked at the town and asked. Kitsune laughed bitterly. Nothing much. Over the years, Baiming Town has been searched thoroughly by the cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families. Even the rocks that were passed down from the ancient times were taken away by the cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families, let alone any treasures or secret skills. What about the ancestral hall? Su Zimo asked again. Under normal circumstances, the ancestral hall was the most important place for a family and there might be some secrets hidden there. Kitsune shook her head. The ancestral hall has been torn down by the 3 aristocratic families multiple times over the years. This ancestral hall was built by the later generations and there can't be anything special about it. After pausing for a moment, Kitsune continued, if there's truly something special, this town is the origin of the Kitami clan and can be considered as their final homeland. Su Zimo fell into deep thought. After a moment, Kitsune could not help but ask, Master, are you guessing that this feeling of mine has something to do with the secret guarded by the Baiming family? It's extremely possible. Su Zimo nodded and did not hide his thoughts. Kitsune shook her head. However, if there's really any secret in Baiming Town, it would have been discovered over the years. The Kitami clan has been passed down for generations and there are millions of clansmen. Why am I the only one who has this strange feeling? When he heard that question, Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he blurted out, Bloodline? What? Kitsune asked instinctively, not understanding for a moment. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, You've said before that the cultivation techniques and treasures of the Baiming family have been divided up by the 3 aristocratic families and they are declining day by day. Without any cultivation resources and being restricted to this small place by the three aristocratic families, they are unable to travel outside. Therefore, no powerful cultivators have been born over the years. Up till now, the person with the highest cultivation in the Baiming family is only Janine Jinjuan. Kitsune said, however, my cultivation is only at the Jindan realm and I'm inferior to my predecessors. You're different from them, Su Zimo said. You've cultivated a bloodline phenomenon. Kitsune opened her mouth slightly and gradually understood. Su Zimo said, the fact that you've cultivated a bloodline phenomenon means that you've awakened a certain power in your bloodline. That's why you're able to sense Baiming Town. Baiming Shue's heart began to thump wildly. She could vaguely sense that there was a high chance that the final veil of the secret guarded by the Baiming family was about to be unveiled. But what is the secret and how are we supposed to find it? Kitsune felt her mouth go dry and asked. Bloodline. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, perhaps, your bloodline is the key to it. Without hesitation, Kitsune flicked out her sharp fingernails and slit her wrist gently. Instantly, a bloody scar appeared on her wrist. Given Kitsune's current physique, even Khanate spirit weapons would not be able to hurt her. They were not even as sharp as her fingernails. Scarlet blood flowed out and dripped onto the ground beneath her feet. The blood seeped into the ground and vanished. There was a long silence. A look of disappointment flashed through Kitsune's eyes. All of a sudden, the ground quaked. Immediately after, an extremely terrifying aura burst forth and the entire Baiming town quaked violently while the ground quaked. Many clansmen of Baiming town shrieked and fled in all directions. Buzz, buzz, buzz. One after another, beams of light burst forth from the depths of the ground, illuminating the void. It's an ancient seal. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes at the light and exclaimed softly. Who would have thought that there would be an ancient restriction buried beneath Baiming town? The key to activating it was actually the Baiming bloodline. However, the prerequisite was that a clansman of the Kidami clan had to be able to cultivate a bloodline phenomenon and awaken the true power of the Kidami clan bloodline. Su Zimo lamented when he saw that. Throughout history, the three aristocratic families had never given up on searching for the secret of the Kidami clan. However, under the oppression of the three aristocratic families, the Kidami clan had difficulties in cultivation. It was already considered rare for them to be able to cultivate a Jindan phenomenon, let alone a bloodline phenomenon. That was the reason why the secret of the Kidami clan was buried for so long without being discovered. The three aristocratic families racked their brains and resorted to unscrupulous means. However, they had never expected that the secret would be destroyed by them. If not for the fact that Su Zimo had come to Baiming town to sever his karma and wanted to take in a disciple to impart his Dao to Kitsune, it was likely that the Baiming clan's secret would remain buried forever. Chapter 1372. Not long after, the rays of light gradually disappeared. Baiming town had changed drastically as well. The massive town had almost disappeared and a gigantic pit appeared on the ground. It was dark and deep inside and no one knew where it led to. Su Zimo said, let's go and take a look. The secret that the Baiming family is guarding should be below. Yes, Kitsune nodded. Worried that there would be danger, Su Zimo walked at the front with Kitsune following behind him. Some of the Kidami clan members lingered around the pit fearfully, not daring to enter. After about half an incense stick's time, Su Zimo and Kitsune arrived at the bottom of the pit. It was clear that someone had built this place meticulously. Stone steps were paved beneath their feet and the surroundings were filled with ancient rocks that were filled with the aura of time. At the bottom was a long tunnel. Su Zimo relied on Qinglian's true body and continued forward with Kitsune. The longer they walked, the more humid the air ahead became. Furthermore, Su Zimo could clearly sense that the air ahead was filled with exuberant vitality and rich spirit qi. Before long, Su Zimo's ears twitched and he could vaguely hear the sound of flowing water. There's a hidden river underground? Su Zimo frowned slightly and shook his head in denial. The sound of flowing water was not loud and did not seem like an underground river. Su Zimo continued forward with Kitsune. After walking for a long time, Their vision opened up and the two of them arrived at an extremely vast hall. The two of them looked over. On both sides of the hall stood 9 stone statues that were 30 feet tall. Each of them wielded a different weapon in their hands and were dignified. All of them had their eyes closed and were covered in dust. At the end of the stone statues on both sides was a gigantic pool surrounded by jade sculptures. Golden water surged within and emitted an extremely rich aura of life. Su Zimo was shocked and exclaimed, "The primordial divine spring." Kitsune also exclaimed. She had only heard Su Zimo mention it before, but she did not expect a primordial divine spring to be buried beneath Baiming Town. Su Zimo was shocked. This primordial divine spring was clearly different from the one beneath Gu Sect. There was no source under Gu Sect, it was stagnant water. And at the center of this pool, golden bubbles were constantly bubbling. Clearly, there was a spring at the bottom that was continuously gushing out divine spring water. This was a primordial divine spring that was comparable to the Dragon Bone Valley. Su Zimo had once speculated about the secrets of the Baiming family out of curiosity. But who would have thought that when this secret was revealed, it would be so shocking? One had to know that a single primordial divine spring was enough to attract the covetous eyes of various major powers and super sections. With this primordial divine spring, the Baiming family could attract countless experts and even nurture many geniuses. It was highly possible for them to regain the glory of the ancient era. The primordial divine spring was too precious. Up till now, the only place Su Zimo knew of was the Dragon Bone Valley. Buzz. Just as Su Zimo was pondering, beams of light burst forth from the main hall. The 18 stone statues opened their eyes one after another and shook off the dust on their bodies. They came to life with sinister killing intent in their eyes. Trespassers of the Baiming Kingdom will be killed without mercy. The 18 stone statues spoke at the same time. Swoosh. The stone statue at the front raised its gigantic sword and slashed down at Su Zimo. Su Zimo was shocked when he suddenly caught sight of the primordial divine spring. While he was momentarily distracted, the gigantic sword had already descended. There was no time to dodge and he could only reach out, wanting to grab the gigantic sword. Boom! The gigantic sword collided with Su Zimo's palm with a deafening bang. Su Zimo shuddered as though he was struck by lightning. He was sent flying dozens of feet away by the gigantic sword and a bloody wound appeared on his palm. Pissed, Su Zimo took in a breath of cold air. The strength of this stone statue was way too strong. It was definitely at the conjoint body realm. The gigantic sword in the hands of the stone statue did not seem to be a dermic weapon. However, the fact that it could injure Qinglian's true body was proof of its might. Could these conjoint body mighty figures of the ancient era have lived to this era? Su Zimo was shocked. However, on second thought, he shook his head. That's not right. Even Mahayana patriarchs only have a lifespan of 100,000 years. These stone statues can't be humans. Puppets. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind as he came to a realization. They must be puppets. Only puppet stone statues could ignore time and pass down their legacies from the ancient era until now. Another stone statue took a huge step forward and arrived before Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. Swinging its arm, it raised its saber and slashed. Su Zimo could only raise his arm to defend. Boom! When the saber struck his arm, his entire arm was numb and he could barely feel it. Su Zimo's figure was sent flying once more and slammed into the wall behind him before sliding down. These stone statues are way too ruthless. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Although the stone statues were lifeless, the power they released was comparable to conjoint body mighty figures. If Su Zimo's essence spirit was fine and he could use dermic powers, he naturally had countless methods to slice the stone statues into pieces. But now, his essence spirit was damaged and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Facing this group of stone puppets, he was actually somewhat helpless. It was quite thoughtful of the Baiming family to arrange for 18 such powerful stone statues to guard the primordial divine spring and prevent it from being taken over by outsiders. However, Su Zimo lamented internally. 2 stone statues were already able to beat him to such a state. How could he survive when 18 stone statues surrounded him at the same time? He had dominated his entire life and killed countless paragons and monster incarnates. He had never tasted defeat against anyone of the same cultivation realm and was not even afraid of the primordial 9 races. Was he going to be killed by these lifeless stones? If news of this were to spread, he would definitely become the greatest joke of the cultivation world. The dignified Tao Lord Araki Takashi, the #1 monster incarnate of history, was hammered to death by a group of stone statues that were passed down from the ancient era. "Master, watch out!" Kitsune reacted and exclaimed, pouncing over with all her might to shield Su Zimo. "Don't!" Su Zimo said hurriedly. Qinglian's true body was already beaten to such a state by the stone statues. If those gigantic swords and sabers slashed down, Kitsune would not be able to survive even if she had 10 lives. Kitsune closed her eyes and spread her arms in front of Su Zimo. Coincidentally, a gigantic axe slashed down. Just as it was about to land on Kitsune's head, it suddenly shifted and avoided Kitsune's body, slamming into the ground with a bang. The other stone statues circled around Kitsune and charged towards Su Zimo once more. Those stone statues won't hurt anyone from the Kitami clan. When they saw that, Su Zimo and Kitsune thought of that possibility at the same time. Kitsune could only protect Su Zimo and retreat continuously. However, she was alone. How could she protect Su Zimo completely? In a moment of desperation, Kitsune shouted, "Stop right there!" Strangely enough, the stone statues froze on the spot when they heard that and stopped attacking. Chapter 1373. Why are these things so obedient? Su Zimo was shocked. But soon he understood what had happened. That's right, you've awakened the power in your bloodline. Even if the owner of this place is recognized by the ancestors of the Kitami clan, these stone puppets were left behind by these stone puppets. These stone puppets were left behind by the ancestors of your Baiming clan. Naturally, they will obey your orders when they sense your bloodline aura. At that point, Kitsune seemed to have understood as well. "Stand there and don't move. This is my master. You're not allowed to hurt him," Kitsune said to the 18 stone puppets opposite her. The 18 stone puppets closed their eyes one after another. The divine light in their eyes faded rapidly and they fell silent once more. Kitsune hurriedly helped Su Zimo up. "I'm fine." Su Zimo shook his head. Although he was struck by the stone puppets a few times, his foundation was not injured and they were all superficial wounds. Kitsune said, "Master, you once said that the primordial divine spring can heal the injuries of your essence spirit. Hurry and go. I'll guard here with these stone puppets and not let anyone disturb you." "All right." Su Zimo pondered for a moment and did not decline. Walking towards the primordial divine spring, Su Zimo lamented. It was because of Kitsune that he was able to escape from the endless void. Later on, when he saw Kitsune's many encounters, he wanted to take her in as a disciple and stayed in Baiming Town for 3 whole years. For 3 years, the life-severing curse had been pestering him and he was in extreme pain. However, he did not leave just to sever this karma. To think that it was this action that gave him a chance to repair his essence spirit. Now that he thought about it, if he had left early to search for the primordial divine spring in order to heal his injuries, he might not have any results even after 30 or 300 years, let alone 3 years. Everything in the world was the most mysterious. This was the so-called karma. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo had already arrived beside the pool. He had once learned about the existence of the primordial divine spring from the true bodies of the dragons. However, when he saw it with his own eyes, he still could not conceal the shock on his face. This holy spring was simply the most miraculous spiritual item in the world. Just by standing by the pool, Su Zimo took a deep breath and felt his body brimming with vitality. Even his essence soul seemed to feel better. He no longer hesitated and leaped into the golden pool. Lying flat on his back, he gradually sank into the water. Boundless life force flowed into his body through his pores. Streams of life essence flowed into his sea of consciousness, cleansing his primordial spirit. Being enveloped by the dense vitality, it felt warm and comfortable. Qinglian's real body was itchy and numb, as if countless ants were crawling in her flesh and organs. Su Zimo's body sank into the pool and he bumped into a gigantic rock beneath him, causing him to stumble. He did not know if it was because he crashed into it or something else, but the round rock rolled to the side and Su Zimo sank to the bottom of the pool successfully. At that moment, the primordial divine spring was cleansing Qinglian's body, bloodline, bones, organs, and even her essence spirit. Su Zimo did not mind that he was tripped by a rock in the pool. For Su Zimo, obtaining the nourishment of the primordial divine spring was not only a matter of healing his essence spirit and recovering his cultivation realm. Qinglian's true body was undergoing a tremendous change from the inside out as well. Something black was seeping out of his pores, like dirt and impurities. His bones were created with the lotus stem as the foundation and were supplemented by the treasures of many supersections. Initially, they were greenish-gold in color. Under the cleansing of the primordial divine spring, the greenish-gold bones gradually began to change. They became increasingly translucent and crystalline like jade. The jade-green color gradually deepened while the dark gold color gradually receded. The black impurities that were washed away by the primordial divine spring were none other than the treasures that Su Zimo had refined to create his bones. Those treasures were originally the destiny-dermic weapons of the titular disciples and were extremely powerful. But now, Qinglian's true body treated those melted treasures as impurities and expelled them from her body. The aura of every single bone in Qinglian's true body turned purer and greener, resembling a real lotus stem. The transformation of her bones and her bloodline were undergoing a qualitative change as well. But her bone marrow flowed and let out a series of strange sounds. As her bones increased and her marrow was continuously replaced with blood, the bloodline that was derived from it also became stronger. In her consciousness, under the nourishment of the primordial divine spring, the creation lotus platform burst forth with rays of light that cleansed the black-haired essence spirit continuously. Curses were the most evil. However, even they could not defend against the power of the primordial divine spring. In her consciousness, there were thousands of streaks of light and auspicious colors. The green mist that shrouded the black-haired essence spirit gradually melted and the power of the curse dissipated. Qinglian's true body emitted a boundless life force from the inside out that was increasingly exuberant. The Shimin family. There were more than 10 experts seated in the meeting hall. Every single one of them was a conjoint body mighty figure and the atmosphere was grim. The fact that more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures were alarmed at once was proof of the severity of this matter. The person in the middle looked like he was only middle-aged, but he had already cultivated to the late-stage conjoint body realm. His gaze was bright and he exuded the might of someone who had been in power for a long time. It was the family master of the Shimin family. Elder Chiyo stood in the middle of the hall. Araki Takashi has arrived in the southern region and is in a head-on conflict with our Shimin and Dongfang families. Everyone, what do you think? The Shimin family master was calm and took a sip of tea before saying slowly, "To think that Dao Lord Araki Takashi would be so lucky to be able to return alive after being exiled into the void by D-Fan. Araki Takashi is a jinx. No matter where he goes, it won't be peaceful. Araki Takashi has made a name for himself in the North region and Middle Continent. However, isn't he being way too arrogant for wanting to challenge our two aristocratic families in the southern region?" An old man said slowly, "In my opinion, this matter cannot be tolerated. We should kill Araki Takashi to prevent future trouble." Elder Mirror Moon, "That's inappropriate," Elder Chiyo frowned. Although Araki Takashi is the Dharma Daojun, how many conjoint body experts died in the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley? The entire cultivation world is shaken. Now that Araki Takashi has returned, he must be extremely domineering. In my opinion, it's not appropriate to make him an enemy. Fufu. Elder Mirror Moon smiled gently. Elder Chiyo, you're old and your mind doesn't seem to be as sharp. Based on what you said, I'm certain that Araki Takashi is injured. What do you mean? Elder Chiyo frowned. Elder Mirror Moon said unhurriedly, "According to your description, from the moment Araki Takashi attacked until the end, He did not use any dermic arts and only relied on his physical body to fight. That's right. However, what's wrong with that? Everyone knows that Araki Takashi's physique is strong and his melee combat strength is extraordinary, Elder Chiyo argued. Elder Mirror Moon shook her head. It would be fine if he merely did not use any dermic arts. However, Araki Takashi did not even use any dermic weapons, essence spirit secret skills, or even flight. How can there not be anything strange about that? Elder Chiyo frowned in deep thought. Chapter 1374. Elder Chiyo was a conjoint body mighty figure after all and had lived for more than 10,000 years. At that moment, he calmed down and gradually came to his senses. Elder Mirror Moon said, "My guess is that there's a high chance that Araki Takashi's essence spirit is injured and can't communicate with heaven and earth. He can't even release the most basic dermic arts." Is it that serious? Could Araki Takashi be hiding his strength? The other conjoint body mighty figures discussed as well. Elder Chiyo remained silent with a terrible expression. Actually, he knew in his heart that Elder Mirror Moon's guess was most likely true. This meant that he was scared away by Araki Takashi. At the thought of that, he was naturally displeased and had a hateful expression. The head of the Shimen family did not say anything the entire time. It was only at this moment that he put down his teacup and said indifferently, "Elder Mirror Moon's guess shouldn't be wrong." In the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, a mighty figure of the witch race self-destructed his essence spirit to release a life-severing curse in an attempt to kill Suzumo. Although he did not succeed, I'm sure that given Suzumo's cultivation, there's no way he can remain unscathed against the power of the life-severing curse. At that point, everyone present no longer had any doubts. With all the information and signs combined, it was almost certain that Araki Takashi's essence spirit was injured. Furthermore, it was not light. Brother Shimen is wise. Right then, a chuckle sounded from outside the door. A cultivator with fluttering robes walked in. Nobody present had noticed his existence previously. "Greetings, Dongfang family master." The conjoint body mighty figures in the hall stood up one after another and bowed to the person. That cultivator was the family master of the Dongfang family. "Brother Dongfang, you're here too." The head of the Shimen family stood up and nodded with a smile, inviting, "Please take a seat." The head of the Dongfang family sat down beside the head of the Shimen family and went straight to the point. "I won't beat around the bush. The reason why I'm here is because of Araki Takashi. What do you have in mind, Brother Dongfang?" the head of the Shimen family asked. The head of the Dongfang family smirked with a cold expression and said a single word, "Kill." As soon as the words were spoken, the temperature in the hall dropped significantly. A murderous aura lingered in the air, and a bone-piercing chill could be felt. The head of the Shimen family smiled and said, "Araki Takashi has been famous for a long time. He is quite troublesome. This matter should be discussed at length, Brother Shimen." The head of the Dongfang family interrupted, "You have also guessed that Araki Takashi's primordial spirit is injured and his combat power is greatly reduced. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Any one of our conjoint body mighty figures can suppress it. If you're worried that an accident might happen, the experts in the hall can go together. More than 10 conjoint body mighty figures of the Dongfang family are waiting outside and can take action at any time." Patriarch Shimen smacked his lips. "This Tao Lord Araki Takashi has an injured primordial spirit. He'll be easy to deal with. I'm more worried about the other Araki Takashi." "The other one?" The head of the Dongfang family frowned slightly. Patriarch Shimen said solemnly, "The Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley shocked the entire Tianhuang region. Araki Takashi has 2 true bodies, and there is only one in the southern region. Don't forget, he has another true body of dragons." At the mention of the true bodies of the dragons, many conjoint body experts in the hall looked wary. Although the cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families did not head to Heaven and Earth Valley, everyone was still extremely shocked when they heard the details of that battle. It was said that Araki Takashi's dragon's clone was even more terrifying. Even many conjoint body experts of the primordial races were killed by the true bodies of the dragons. The head of the Dongfang family frowned. The true bodies of the dragons have already been banished into the void. How can they still be alive? That's hard to say, Patriarch Shimen said. Since Araki Takashi's true body survived, there's no guarantee that the true body of the dragons is still alive as well. If we can't kill both of Araki Takashi's true bodies completely, we'll be in huge trouble for our family. If it was only Qinglian's true body, the head of the Shimen family would naturally not be afraid and could kill her. However, he was wary of Araki Takashi's true bodies of the dragons. In that case, Brother Shimen, you don't intend to attack? The head of the Dongfang family asked. The head of the Shimen family shook his head. We have to consider this matter at length. Let's wait and see first. Actually, the head of the Shimen family had other plans in mind. In his opinion, Araki Takashi had offended way too many sects and factions. As long as they spread the news of Araki Takashi's whereabouts, experts of the super sects would naturally come looking for them without them having to do anything. In fact, the primordial races might even be alarmed. This was a borrowed knife to kill. The Shimen family was not willing to provoke a huge problem like Araki Takashi. Right then, there was a commotion outside the door. A cultivator sped over with fluttering robes. He looked like he was in a hurry. Report. Before the cultivator arrived, he shouted from afar. Before long, the cultivator arrived in the hall with an excited expression and shouted, reporting to the family head, there's news from Baiming Town. There's an ancient restriction hidden in Baiming Town that was activated by Kitsune. Right now, a passageway that leads underground has appeared in Baiming Town and there might be. At that point, the cultivator paused for a moment, as though he could not believe it. What? The heads of the Shimen and Dongfang families asked at the same time. Both of them had already thought of a possibility. The secret guarded by the Baiming family had already appeared. There's a high chance it's the primordial divine spring. The cultivator said. Psst. A series of gasps could be heard in the hall. The heads of the Shimen and Dongfang families stood up one after another with shocked expressions. The head of the Shimen family asked, Is that true? The cultivator replied, A member of the Kitami clan mustered the courage to take a look and said that there's a golden pool. Indeed. The two family heads exchanged glances and could see the excitement and greed in each other's eyes. I didn't expect this, the head of the Shimen family sighed. There's a rumor in the ancient times that the Baiming family has always been guarding a massive secret. To think that it's the primordial divine spring. The divine spring has appeared in this generation. Unfortunately, the Kitami clan has already declined. The head of the Dongfang family smiled coldly with a cold expression. The head of the Shimen family took a deep breath of air and said in a deep voice, Everyone in the hall, follow me to Baiming Town to obtain the divine spring. Kill anyone who dares to stop us. Initially, he was wary of Araki Takashi's true bodies of dragons. But now that he heard about the primordial divine spring, he had to snatch the divine spring even if he knew that the true bodies of the dragons were still alive. The primordial divine spring was worth the risk for the Shimen family. Furthermore, there was a high chance that Araki Takashi's true bodies of dragons were already dead. At the same time, the head of the Shimen family sent a voice transmission to a conjoint body mighty figure and instructed him. The conjoint body mighty figure retreated secretly. Brother Shimen, I'm afraid your Shimen family won't be able to take down the divine spring. The head of the Dongfang family smiled gently. Of course. At that time, our two aristocratic families can discuss how to split it equally. As for the Nangong family, the head of the Shimen family paused for a moment. That will depend on the choice of the Nangong family. If they stand on our side, they might still have a share of the divine spring. If the head of the Dongfang family did not continue, but his meaning was clear. Chapter 1375. Nangong family. In the discussion hall, the head of the Nangong family sat in the middle. Apart from many conjoint body mighty figures, there was also a void reversion, Nangong Ling. Under normal circumstances, given Nangong Ling's cultivation realm, she was not qualified to participate in such an occasion. However, the matter of discussion at this moment was special. It concerned Dao Lord Araki Takashi. In the entire Nangong family, Nangong Ling was probably the only one who knew Tao Lord Araki Takashi the best. Everyone please speak. The head of the Nangong family said slowly, since Araki Takashi is not dead and he's still Ling Er's granduncle master, our Nangong family should stay out of this matter. However, we just received news that the primordial divine spring might have been discovered in Baiming Town. The Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families have already made a move. This matter is worth discussing. A middle-aged burly man stood up with a ferocious expression and shouted, "Family head, what are you hesitating for? We must definitely make a move to fight for the primordial divine spring." "That's right," another person said, "the primordial divine spring is way too precious and is the rarest treasure in the world. If our family can obtain the help of the divine spring, our overall strength will at least double. However, the primordial divine spring is a treasure guarded by the Baiming family. If we snatch it..." Another person hesitated. "What's there to be afraid of?" The first middle-aged burly man pouted his lips. "The Kidami clan has long declined. The primordial divine spring is equivalent to an ownerless item. Don't forget about Araki Takashi." That person reminded, "Araki Takashi is Kitsune's master. If we want to fight for the divine spring, we'll definitely have to become enemies with Araki Takashi." "So what if he's Tao Lord Araki Takashi? His essence spirit is damaged and his combat strength is greatly reduced. What's there to be afraid of?" The middle-aged burly man scoffed. However, the whereabouts of Tao Lord Araki Takashi and one of the dragon's true bodies are unknown. It is said that this true body of the dragons is even more powerful. If we become enemies with Araki Takashi because of this and incur the wrath of the true body of the dragons, wouldn't it be a bit of a loss? It's been so many years. There's no news about the true bodies of dragons. They're floating in the endless void. They've long been washed away. Even if the true bodies of the dragons are still alive, with the various super sects and primordial races in front of them, we won't have a chance. Everyone argued endlessly in the Great Hall, sticking to their own opinions. After a long while, the Nangong family head slowly raised his hand and pressed down. The hall gradually quieted down. "Nangong Ling, what do you think?" Nangong family head asked. Nangong Ling stood at the end of the hall, unable to say anything. After all, the experts in the hall were all his seniors, and even his ancestors' ancestors and ancestors. Without the family head asking, he couldn't take the initiative to interrupt. It was only at this moment that Nangong Ling stood out and said in a deep voice, "Family head, I don't recommend making an enemy out of Tao Lord Araki Takashi. Are the three aristocratic families afraid of a Dharma Daojun even if we join forces?" The middle-aged burly man sneered, "Nangong Ling, don't side with Araki Takashi just because he's your granduncle master. Don't forget your surname and bloodline." Nangong Ling was not annoyed against the middle-aged burly man's reprimand and merely shook his head. Tao Lord Araki Takashi is different from the other Dharma Daojun. What's so different about him? He merely has 3 supreme Dharma characteristics. The middle-aged burly man was still disdainful. Furthermore, his essence spirit is damaged. He can't even release the most basic dharmic arts, let alone heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Without witnessing it personally, it's hard to imagine how terrifying Tao Lord Araki Takashi is. Nangong Ling said, "How tragic was the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley? Isn't that lesson enough?" Pausing for a moment, Nangong Ling continued, "Furthermore, I want to remind all the elders that since there's a primordial divine spring, there's a high chance that Tao Lord Araki Takashi's injuries will recover. At that time, even conjoint body mighty figures might not be able to suppress him." Suddenly, the hall fell silent. Many conjoint body mighty figures revealed wary expressions. The middle-aged burly man clenched his fists and said coldly, "What's there to be afraid of? At most, we'll invite the half-martial ancestor of our clan. Even if Araki Takashi recovers, we'll be able to kill him." "What if Tao Lord Araki Takashi enters the conjoint body realm?" Nangong Ling asked again. "That's impossible." The middle-aged burly man waved his hand. "How long has it been since Araki Takashi entered the Dharma characteristic realm? 100 years? He's dreaming if he wants to enter the conjoint body realm right now. Furthermore, at the conjoint body realm, one has to fuse their heaven and earth dharma characteristics into their bodies. Araki Takashi has 3 supreme dharma characteristics. Although he's incomparably strong and can sweep through any one of the same cultivation realm, fortune and misfortune are interdependent. If he wants to fuse 3 supreme dharma characteristics into his body won't be able to withstand it and will explode. It was not a smooth journey for cultivators to enter the conjoint body realm without danger. The stronger the heaven and earth dharma characteristic, the greater the danger of fusing it into one's body. However, Su Zimo had 3 supreme dharma characteristics. This was unprecedented in history. Actually, the cultivators in the hall did not know that in the current generation, there was a person who had successfully fused 4 supreme dharma characteristics into his body. As for that person, he was far-sighted and had a flawless plan. His boldness was shocking and he schemed against all the experts in the world. Furthermore, he was the one who benefited the most from the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. The Nangong family master nodded as well. With the help of the primordial divine spring, it's possible for Araki Takashi to recover from his injuries. However, it's impossible for him to enter the conjoint body realm. The middle-aged burly man said, "Family master, give the order. If we attack now, we can still get a share of the loot. If we're late and the divine spring is controlled by the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families, it'll be too difficult for us to fight for it." The Nangong family master frowned and was still hesitant. "Why is it so lively?" Right at this moment, an aged voice sounded from outside the hall. An old man with a dragon-headed walking stick walked in stealthily. He looked like he had 1 foot in the grave and could die at any moment. "Greetings, Grand Elder." Everyone in the hall stood up one after another and bowed with respectful expressions. Even the Nangong family master walked down from the main seat and said softly, "Elder Lon Tian, you're here." Those who could be Grand Elders of the 3 aristocratic families were all half-martial ancestors. Although Elder Lon Tian looked like he was at the end of his life and his blood chi was waning, in reality, he had already lived for 20,000 years. Everyone knew that the lifespan of a conjoint body mighty figure was 20,000 years. Strictly speaking, even half-martial ancestors were still at the conjoint body realm and had not truly entered the Mahayana realm. However, it was possible for one to live for 20,000 years after becoming a half-martial ancestor. With Elder Lon Tian around, there's nothing for us to be afraid of even if Araki Takashi recovers from his injuries. The middle-aged burly man said loudly with a delighted expression. "Hee hee." Elder Lon Tian leaned on his walking stick and chuckled, saying slowly, "Nangong family, let's hold back first and wait and see." "Grand Elder." The middle-aged burly man could not help but say, "If the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families get ahead of us, our Nangong family might never have a chance to obtain the primordial divine spring. There's no need to argue about this. I'll make my own decision." Elder Lon Tian said indifferently. There were no more objections in the hall. Even the Nangong family master could not disobey the orders of a half-martial ancestor. Chapter 1376. Baiming Town. Some of the Baiming Town tribesmen could not hold back their curiosity and walked down the stone steps. However, they were stopped by Kitsune when they reached the entrance of the hall. "You guys can't enter for now. Disperse." Kitsune looked at the Kidami clan tribesmen and said in a deep voice, "Why can't we enter? We're Kidami clan tribesmen as well." "That's right. This place must contain the secrets of the Kidami clan. Kitsune, what right do you have to occupy it for yourself?" Some of the Kidami clan tribesmen stood at the entrance and argued, pushing and shoving as they tried to barge into the hall. Kitsune's expression turned cold. In a flash, she arrived at the entrance of the hall in the blink of an eye and sent the cultivator at the front flying back with a punch. The cultivator was sent flying and crashed into the cultivator behind him, falling into a ball and screaming in pain. "Get lost," Kitsune said coldly. "This is because we're both tribesmen. Otherwise, just now, I would have taken your life with a single punch." Even though Baiming Shui was a woman, she was still a decisive person. Otherwise, She would not have dared to cripple Dongfang Ji in front of the experts of the two aristocratic families in Shimen Manor. Su Zimo was recuperating in the primordial divine spring, and she would not allow anyone to barge in and disturb Su Zimo. Furthermore, news of such a huge commotion in Baiming Town must have reached the three aristocratic families. After a while, there was no guarantee that no experts would come. The Kidami clan tribesmen would be sending themselves to their deaths if they stayed here. Sister. Baiming Ao and the others had already rushed back from Shimen Manor. Little brother, leave this place with your tribesmen first, Kitsune said in a deep voice. All right. Baiming Ao nodded. He had complete trust in his sister. Furthermore, there was a top-notch figure standing behind her. As long as that person was alive, his sister would not be in danger. Before long, Baiming Ao led the Kidami clan tribesmen out of Baiming Town. Kitsune stood guard at the entrance of the hall and turned to look in the direction of the primordial divine spring with a worried expression. It's been so long and there's still no movement. I wonder how Master's Yuan spirit is doing and if it has recovered. I'm afraid there's not much time left. Kitsune thought to herself. In the pool. Su Zimo remained motionless, but Qinglian's true body was undergoing earth-shaking changes. At this time, the impurities in Qinglian's true body had almost been expelled. Every bone in Qinglian's real body was green and translucent like jade, emitting a multicolored light. Her bone marrow rattled as it generated powerful blood vessels and modified her internal organs. Even the treasures of the super sex were expelled from her body as impurities. How powerful was Qinglian's real body? Within his sea of consciousness, tens of thousands of rays of multicolored light and thousands of strands of auspicious colors were present. The lotus platform of good fortune was bursting with vitality as the aura of primal chaos pervaded the air. The black-haired essence spirit sat upright on it, and the life-severing curse on her body had already vanished completely. Just as Su Zimo had expected, the danger of the life-severing curse was resolved with the help of the primordial divine spring. As for him, he was experiencing another opportunity. Nourished by the primordial divine spring, the creation lotus platform and Qinglian's true body formed an extremely mysterious connection. It was as though the bloodlines of the lotus roots were fused together and were indistinguishable from each other. The lotus platform was in the consciousness. The lotus leaves were the skin. The lotus stems were the bones. At that moment, Su Zimo felt that his body had already disappeared. It was as though he had transformed into a Qinglian that was swaying in the primordial divine spring. If Kitsune turned back to look, she would be shocked to discover something. Lotus leaves floated on the surface of the golden pool. A lotus flower was growing on the lotus leaves. However, it had yet to bloom and was only a bud. It was pink and translucent like jade. Under the nourishment of the primordial divine spring, the lotus flower bud swayed gently and emitted a tremendous life force. Although his essence spirit had recovered, Su Zimo did not get up. He intended to make use of this opportunity to attempt to break through to the conjoint body realm. Under normal circumstances, it would be extremely dangerous to fuse three supreme Dharma characteristics. Even Qinglian's true body would not be able to withstand it. However, with the primordial divine spring around, the chances of success were much higher. This was a rare opportunity and Su Zimo did not want to miss it. Sush. The first supreme Dharma characteristic appeared. Thunderdermic body. The thunderdermic body was like a god of thunder, wielding a whip that flashed with lightning. With dark clouds above its head, it stepped on a sea of thunder with a dignified expression. With his massive spirit consciousness, Su Zimo fused the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic into his body. Ugh! Su Zimo grunted with a pained expression. How strong was a supreme Dharma characteristic? It could even kill ordinary conjoint body mighty figures. Fusing such a terrifying power into one's physical body would be a huge burden to the body. Even Qinglian's true body could not withstand it. Instantly, wounds appeared on the skin of Qinglian's true body and Su Zimo turned into a bloody man instantly as blood flowed out and surged into the pool. However, under the nourishment of the primordial divine spring's immense life force, the wounds on Qinglian's true body healed rapidly. However, the power of the supreme Dharma characteristic was way too strong, and the moment the wounds healed, they ruptured once more. The entire golden pool was dyed red. Right then, an oval-shaped boulder in the depths of the pool suddenly moved, as though it was extremely excited. It circled Su Zimo's body continuously. Strangely enough, after the boulder circled a few times, the blood around Su Zimo vanished and turned back into the golden divine spring. Now that there was no more blood in the pool, the huge rock seemed to be dissatisfied, and it kept spinning around. From time to time, it would even bump into Su Zimo. However, Su Zimo was in immense pain and was oblivious to the changes in the pool. An unknown period of time passed. It was only then that Su Zimo gradually regained his senses. It was way too scary. A single supreme Dharma characteristic was already so dangerous, and this was even under the nourishment of the primordial divine spring. It was almost certain that if not for the primordial divine spring, Su Zimo would definitely explode and die if he forcefully fused 3 supreme Dharma characteristics. At that thought, a figure flashed through Su Zimo's mind. 3 supreme Dharma characteristics are already so dangerous. What will happen if there are 4? Even though Su Zimo had already cultivated to this point, that person was even more unfathomable in his heart. Right then, something seemed to have bumped into him in the pool. It was neither light nor heavy. Instinctively, Su Zimo sent the thing flying with a backhand slap. It was rough to the touch and felt like a rock. However, he did not pay much attention to it and merely thought that the divine spring had surged and knocked some rock into him. Su Zimo calmed his mind and continued to accommodate the second supreme Dharma characteristic. Rulai Dharmic body. The 90 feet tall Rulai Dharmic body had a dignified appearance. It lowered its brows and eyes and placed its palms together, chanting Sanskrit in a sacred and benevolent manner. Su Zimo fused the heaven and earth Dharma characteristic into his body. At that moment, Su Zimo felt as though Qinglian's true body was about to explode. The flesh of Qinglian's true body exploded and fresh blood gushed out. Her organs could not withstand the pressure and cracks appeared one after another. Su Zimo opened his mouth and wanted to scream in pain. However, he could only make gurgling sounds after being fed a mouthful of divine spring water. In the depths of the pool, the boulder approached once more. Chapter 1377. The intense pain stimulated Su Zimo continuously. More and more blood surged into the pool. As for Su Zimo, the jade-green bones in his body were also producing new bloodlines continuously. Coupled with the primordial divine spring, his body was repaired continuously. The power of a supreme Dharma characteristic was way too strong. Even Qinglian's true body could not withstand it. Su Zimo's consciousness was hazy and blurry. He fainted several times only to be woken up by the intense pain. An unknown period of time passed. The pain on his body gradually subsided. After his wounds healed, they no longer ruptured and scabs began to form and fall off. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally made it through. However, the entire process was way too painful. Even with his strong will, he fainted several times. If it was anyone else, they would have broken down long ago. Furthermore, this was only the fusion of 2 supreme Dharma characteristics. If he wanted to advance to the conjoint body realm completely, he would have to fuse a 3rd supreme Dharma characteristic. However, Su Zimo knew very well that Qinglian's true body had already reached its limits after fusing 2 supreme Dharma characteristics. If he were to forcefully fuse a 3rd supreme Dharmic art, there was a high chance that Qinglian's true body would explode and die. Su Zimo was fearless and did not hesitate at all. If he could not fuse with the help of the primordial divine spring today, he would never have any hope of advancing to the conjoint body realm in the future. 3rd supreme Dharma characteristic, heavenly fiend Dharma body. Su Zimo absorbed the supreme Dharma characteristic into his body. Boom! A loud bang sounded in Su Zimo's mind. The next moment, his consciousness seemed to have been stripped from his body and he could clearly see that Qinglian's true body had exploded. Her flesh was peeled off and her organs were shattered. Only jade-green bones were left supporting her. At that moment, cracks had already appeared on the bones. Qinglian's true body was destroyed. The injuries she suffered this time round were even more severe than when Di Fan attacked, and her entire body almost disappeared. Under this tremendous power, Qinglian's true body was quickly reduced to a skeleton. Her vitality was rapidly draining away. Even with the primordial divine spring, it was difficult to revive her. The black-haired primordial spirit was protected by the creation lotus platform and was surrounded by many rays of light. Only then did it manage to survive. Su Zimo stared blankly at this scene, his eyes a little dim. Did he fail? Ever since the true body of Qinglian started cultivating, it had encountered countless dangers. Eventually, it stopped at the Dharma characteristic realm and failed to form a conjoint body. Of course, Su Zimo was not sad. After all, he still had the true bodies of dragons and Wu Dao. Moreover, he hadn't truly died. At the very least, he had preserved his primordial spirit. In the future, he still had a chance to reconstruct his physical body. However, it was a pity to lose Qinglian's true body. Under his gaze, he saw that around his remains, within the surging blood mist, there was an enormous oval-shaped stone that was continuously flying about. The stone was as tall as a person and had a rough surface. It was filled with an ancient aura and had some mysterious patterns on it, giving off two completely different auras. It was both hard and soft, yin and yang. When the two extreme auras intersected on the gigantic stone, an extremely strange devouring power spread out and devoured the essence blood of Qinglian's true body that was released in large mouthfuls. This scene seemed somewhat familiar. However, Su Zimo could not recall it for a moment. To think that there would be such a treasure in the depths of the primordial divine spring. Su Zimo lamented internally. The creation lotus platform floated and the black-haired primordial spirit sat on it, wanting to take a closer look. The moment he approached, the stone burst forth with an extremely immense life force. This, Su Zimo was shocked. Such powerful vitality was something that had never been seen even in the dragon clan. Only the true bodies of dragons could compare to it. That's not a treasure. It's the egg of some sort of living being. Su Zimo reacted quickly. However, he was even more shocked. What sort of living being's egg could release such a strong life force that even he was shocked? Most importantly, if no one discovered the secret beneath Dark North Town, it meant that the gigantic egg had been passed down since the ancient era. Suddenly, Su Zimo recalled the scene in Shiman Manor. That was the gigantic demon beast that appeared when Kitsune summoned her bloodline phenomenon. A thought flashed across his mind as he came up with a theory. Kuan race's egg? That was unlikely. Although the Kuan race was one of the primordial 9 races, their lifespans were similar to dragons. The life force of an egg could not have reached that level. Furthermore, the devouring power of the two extreme powers on the gigantic egg was way too strong. If it was not a Kuan race's egg, there was only a single possibility. It was a Kuan Peng egg. One of the 3 primordial taboos, the Kuan Peng. Legend has it that the Kuan Peng could transform into a fish that spanned thousands of kilometers, resembling a boundless continent that floated on the sea. It could also transform into a bird that could fly for tens of thousands of kilometers with a flap of its wings. It possessed the power of the extreme yin and extreme yang and devoured the seas, soaring into the skies. If Su Zimo was not wrong, the 2 extreme powers that emanated from the gigantic egg should be the power of the extreme yin and extreme yang. Most likely, only a Kuan Peng egg could release such a strong life force. Prior to this, Su Zimo had some doubts. Although the primordial divine spring beneath Dark North Town was extremely precious, what did it have to do with Kitsune's bloodline phenomenon? Now, he finally understood. The secret that the Dark North family was guarding was not the primordial divine spring, but the Kuan Peng egg. Right now, the Kuan Peng egg was devouring his blood. The reason why he found this scene familiar was because the night spirit had experienced the same situation when it was hatched. Although the primordial divine spring had exuberant life force, it could only ensure that the Kuan Peng egg maintained its life. A large amount of food and flesh was required to hatch the Kuan Peng. That was the reason why the Kuenpeng egg would take the initiative to devour Su Zimo's bloodline. However, the Kuenpeng was different from the Qi. If the Kuenpeng's true form was fully released, it would be way too massive. This also meant that its devouring power was extremely strong. The bit of flesh on Qinglian's true body was nothing more than a drop in the ocean to it. The amount of flesh and blood required to hatch the Kuenpeng was unimaginable. Furthermore, given the devouring power of the Kuenpeng, even super sex would not be able to afford it. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness merely touched the Kuenpeng egg, and he could sense that the interior of the gigantic egg was as vast as the ocean and endless. This Kuenpeng egg is a little troublesome as well. Su Zimo lamented internally. If the Kuenpeng egg was exposed, it could cause chaos in the entire Tianhuang mainland. At that time, who knew how many experts would be attracted? Right then, Su Zimo suddenly sensed a change in Qinglian's corpse that was initially floating in the depths of the divine spring. Chapter 1378. The initially dead and cracked corpse of the Qinglian suddenly emanated a trace of vitality under the cleansing of the primordial divine spring. Immediately after, the trace of vitality gradually grew stronger and exuberant, enveloping the entire Qinglian corpse. The initially shattered bones gradually healed. Multicolored light shone on the jade-green bones and his bone marrow was already flowing. The Qinglian's true body was brimming with vitality once more. Sensing something, Su Zimo's creation lotus platform moved and returned to his glabella, guarding the spirit platform. Instantly, he formed a mysterious connection with the Qinglian's true body. In the hall, a commotion came from the divine spring. Kitsune could not help but turn back. A Qinglian was growing above the pool. At the top of the lotus stem, a flower bud bloomed slowly and layers of lotus petals bloomed. The innermost lotus petals were smaller while the outermost ones were the largest. Every circle consisted of 9 lotus petals. There were a total of 7 circles. The 63 lotus petals were tainted with golden dew from the divine spring and were brimming with vitality. The lotus platform was jade green and translucent, spewing out 63 green rays of light that danced in midair before returning to the lotus cave slowly. "How beautiful!" Kitsune exclaimed. Even if she saw that, she did not know what was going on. Given her knowledge, she did not know what the Qinglian was. However, if the conjoint body mighty figures of the 3 aristocratic families saw it, they would definitely be shocked. That was because that was a creation Qinglian. Furthermore, it was a grade 7 creation Qinglian. The creation Qinglian was shattered by Di Fan but was reborn in another manner. Su Zimo's bones were the lotus stem and his skin was the lotus leaves. He was connected to the creation lotus platform in his consciousness as though they were one and could not be separated. Su Zimo was a creation Qinglian in human form. Under the nourishment of the primordial divine spring and after fusing with 3 supreme dermic bodies, the creation Qinglian that was initially at grade 6 finally grew and advanced to grade 7. That was also the reason why the Qinglian's true body was able to revive and successfully advance to the conjoint body realm. Not many people in the current cultivation world knew how terrifying a grade 7 creation Qinglian was. Only Su Zimo knew that the weakness of the Qinglian's true body had vanished completely. The bloodline flowing in Su Zimo's body was equivalent to the bloodline of the grade 7 creation Qinglian. Su Zimo laid quietly at the bottom of the divine spring. Flesh and blood grew on his jade-green bones and gradually filled up. His organs were also gradually formed. This body was transforming into the true Qinglian body. Above the pool, under Kitsune's gaze, gigantic jade-green lotus leaves floated up from the water, covering the surface of the water. A Qinglian was swaying and blooming amidst the lotus leaves. Outside Baiming town, figures descended one after another and stood in midair. Every single figure seemed to be able to fuse with the entire world and emitted a tremendous might. There were more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures from the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families that arrived. It had been a long time since the 3 aristocratic families had made such a huge move when they ruled over the South region. Even the 2 patriarchs of the Dongfang and Shimin families had appeared. Indeed, no one from the Nangong family came. The patriarch of the Dongfang family sneered. The patriarch of the Shimin family said indifferently with a calm expression, "Since they're not coming now, there's naturally no need for us to share the primordial divine spring with the Nangong family after we obtain it." That's right. The patriarch of the Dongfang family nodded. The many conjoint body mighty figures were in no hurry to attack. Instead, they looked down at the gigantic cave beneath Baiming Town. The patriarch of the Shimin family closed his eyes for a moment before suddenly opening them. Although I can't see the depths, the aura below is indeed filled with rich life force. Patriarch, let's do it. A mighty figure was eager and could not help but say, "I'm willing to be the first to enter and suppress Araki Takashi." What's the hurry? The patriarch of the Shimin family smiled gently. The primordial divine spring and Tao Lord Araki Takashi are right beneath Baiming Town. There's no way they can escape. Let's join forces and seal the space here first to prevent Tao Lord Araki Takashi from using any teleportation talismans to teleport away. That's right. Since we've chosen to attack today, we have to eliminate the root of the problem to prevent future trouble. The patriarch of the Dongfang family was murderous as well. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The conjoint body mighty figures scattered all over Baiming Town. They conjured hand seals and released streams of dermic powers into the void, setting up layers of restrictions. Before long, the space here was sealed by more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures. Let's go, I'll wait. Please. The two patriarchs had confident expressions and gave way to each other humbly. Thereafter, they walked down the stone steps side by side. The remaining conjoint body mighty figures followed closely. The underground route was not complicated. Before long, many conjoint body mighty figures saw a hall up ahead. At the same time, Kitsune, who was guarding the entrance of the hall, caught sight of the patriarch of the Dongfang family, the patriarch of the Shimin family, and more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures. Kitsune's heart skipped a beat. Although she did not recognize anyone and could not tell the cultivation realms of those cultivators with her eyesight, she could sense a strong sense of danger from them. Without hesitation, Kitsune retreated and arrived behind a stone puppet in a flash. At the same time, the patriarch of the Shimin family smiled gently and blinked. Suddenly, a golden light flashed through his eyes. Clang! The golden light shot out from his eyes and arrived in an instant. It slashed the body of the stone statue and left a deep mark. Visual technique. If not for the fact that Kitsune had reacted swiftly and hid in advance, that visual technique alone would have been enough to kill her. A conjoint body mighty figure did not even have to lift a finger to kill a perfected Jin Dan. He's not dead? The patriarch of the Shimin family frowned slightly and his expression darkened. As a conjoint body mighty figure, it was truly embarrassing for him to fail against a perfected Jin Dan. "Lass, you've reacted quite quickly," the patriarch of the Shimin family said indifferently with a sinister tone filled with killing intent. In that short period of time, they did not stop in their tracks and were already less than a dozen feet away from the hall. "Guard the entrance and don't let anyone in. Anyone who trespasses the hall without my orders will be killed without mercy." Kitsune ordered swiftly without wasting any time with the patriarch of the Shimin family and the others. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The originally silent stone statue puppet suddenly opened its eyes, which emitted beams of divine light. It had completely awakened. Rumble. Boom. The stone puppets moved in unison and wielded gigantic weapons, standing at the entrance of the hall like gigantic heavenly gods. Patriarch, look. Right then, a conjoint body mighty figure pointed in the direction of the hall with widened eyes and a shocked expression, exclaiming. The mighty figures of the two aristocratic families looked over and pierced through the stone puppets, landing on the pool in the depths of the hall. A green lotus was blooming above the pool, swaying gently. The stem of the lotus was sparkling and translucent like jade. Huge lotus leaves spread out on the golden water surface, rippling with the waves. That is, the cultivators were shocked. Creation Qinglian. Heavens, it's that supreme treasure of the universe. Let me count. That's the grade 7 creation Qinglian. A conjoint body mighty figure's voice trembled. To think that the Kitami clan would be guarding such a shocking secret. They sure hid it well. Every cultivator's eyes revealed a hint of greed. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a supreme treasure of the universe? Chapter 1379. The moment they saw the grade 7 creation Qinglian, the atmosphere between the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families changed subtly. The primordial divine spring could be split equally between the two aristocratic families. However, there was only one grade 7 creation Qinglian. Fufu. The patriarch of the Dongfang family chuckled. Brother Shimin, let's stick to our initial plan and charge in to suppress Araki Takashi. As for who the grade 7 creation Qinglian belongs to, let's postpone it for the time being and discuss it later. No problem. The patriarch of the Shimin family nodded as well. It would be the greatest joke if the two aristocratic families fought over this utmost treasure of heaven and earth before they suppressed Araki Takashi. The patriarch of the Dongfang family shifted his gaze to the dozens of stone statues at the entrance of the hall and sneered, "Lass, you're truly way too naive if you think you can stop us with just a few puppets. Brother Dongfang, don't underestimate these puppets. They're interesting to be able to defend against my visual technique," the patriarch of the Shimin family said. "They're just a bunch of lousy stones without essence spirits and can't use dermic arts. What's there to fear?" The patriarch of the Dongfang family waved his hand and ordered, "Attack!" Two conjoint body mighty figures could not hold it in any longer and appeared right away, charging towards the hall. "Get lost!" The mighty figure of the Dongfang aristocratic family wielded a gigantic spear. As the spear trembled, dermic powers surged and the voids distorted, forming a vortex that could devour and crush everything. In the hall, Kitsune's face was pale. Although she was standing in the hall, the aftershock of a conjoint body mighty figure's attack made her feel extremely uncomfortable. In fact, she could not even control her body and staggered towards the entrance of the hall. The power of the conjoint body realm was way too strong. Kitsune was only at the Jindan realm after all. All of a sudden, the grade 7 creation Qinglian behind her swayed gently and emitted rays of light that enveloped Kitsune, dispelling the power of the conjoint body mighty figure. Kitsune quickly retreated, distancing herself from the entrance of the hall. She commanded the 18 stone statue puppets to defend the hall to the death. It really is a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. It can even automatically protect its owner. It has such a mysterious power. When they saw that, the gazes of the conjoint body mighty figures of the two aristocratic families turned increasingly fervent. A stone statue puppet wielding a long spear also made its move at the same time, thrusting out forcefully. There were no ripples of spiritual energy, nor were there any mysterious moves. However, the moment he made his move, he unleashed a terrifying amount of power. Boom! The two spears collided and exploded with a loud bang. The stone statue puppet did not retreat a single step and had actually blocked the attack of the mighty figure of the Dongfang family completely. A conjoint body mighty figure of the Shimin family had already arrived. He swiped his storage bag and a flying sword with a cold glint appeared. Turning into a streak of light, it arrived in front of a stone statue instantly. Clang! The speed of the sword was extremely fast, instantly stabbing into the stone statue's chest, but it actually didn't pierce through. On the contrary, the stone statue puppet reacted and swung the gigantic sword in its hands, sending the flying sword flying into the distance. When they saw that, apart from the two family masters, the other conjoint body mighty figures attacked as well. The battlefield was not considered wide and the 18 stone statue puppets guarded the entrance of the hall. Although the attacks of the conjoint body mighty figures were ferocious, they could not break in immediately. The two family masters stood with their hands behind their backs in no hurry. These stone statue puppets were indeed extremely rare and their combat strength was comparable to conjoint body mighty figures. Even in the current puppet sect, they were extremely rare. Furthermore, the stone statue puppets were invulnerable and possessed immense strength. Even if some mighty figure dermic weapons smashed against them, they would not be able to injure their foundations. Of course, the two family masters had already discovered the weakness of the stone statue puppets after watching for a short while. Firstly, the stone statue puppets had been buried for too long. Even the best stones that had been passed down from the ancient era could not help but be eroded by time and were no longer as good as before. Even the lifespan of a Mahayana patriarch was only 100,000 years. Who knew how many hundreds of thousands of years had passed since the ancient times? The two family masters observed carefully. Although the mighty figuredermic weapons could not severely injure the stone statue puppets, they would definitely chip off some stone fragments if they struck them. The reason why the puppets were able to move like living beings was because of the existence of restrictions. If the restrictions on the puppets were destroyed, they would turn into a bunch of broken stones without any combat strength. Furthermore, the stone statue puppets could not use dermic arts. Furthermore, their movements were slow and their reactions were not as agile as cultivators. Before long, the stone statue puppets were riddled with injuries. Numerous cracks appeared on its gigantic body. Some of the ancient restrictions on the puppets had already been destroyed. The puppets' movements had become much slower, and their strength was much weaker than before. Brother Shimen, let's attack as well in case anything happens. The Dongfang family master said leisurely. All right. The Shimen family master nodded gently and his figure flashed. His sleeves fluttered and his palms shone with a bedazzling brilliance. The weapon of the Shimen family master was a pair of meteoric metal gloves that were made from falling stars and were indestructible. It was a true Khanate mighty figuredermic weapon. Bang! The Shimen family master arrived at a stone statue puppet and raised his arm, smashing it on the head of the puppet. The stone statue flew back and slammed heavily onto the ground. Numerous cracks appeared on its head, filling it with dense cracks. The divine light in the eyes of the stone statue puppet dimmed gradually as well. Although the stone statue puppet could still struggle to stand up, it no longer had any combat strength. The Dongfang family master had already attacked and crippled a stone statue puppet as well. The addition of the two family masters broke the stalemate instantly. A flaw appeared in the defense of the 18 stone statue puppets as well. The remaining conjoint body mighty figures hollered and released a powerful attack. Before long, they tore open a gigantic gap and charged in. Kitsune's heart skipped a beat. In the blink of an eye, 5 of the 18 stone statue puppets were crippled and the remaining 13 were riddled with injuries. Some of them could not even stand properly. Naturally, the entrance of the hall could not be defended and the remaining stone statue puppets had already retreated into the hall. The two family masters led more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures in. Fu. The Dongfang family master smiled gently and said loudly, Lass, I've said it before. It's a fool's dream if you want to rely on these lousy rocks to stop us. Where's Araki Takashi? The Shimen family master asked coldly. Against the pressure of a group of conjoint body mighty figures, Kitsune was drenched in sweat and almost could not withstand the pressure, wanting to kneel on the ground. However, she was stubborn and remained silent against the questioning of a conjoint body mighty figure. You're not going to speak? The Shimen family master's expression turned cold as he said coldly, If you don't speak, I have plenty of ways to make you speak. Just as the Shimen family master was about to attack, a conjoint body mighty figure beside him suddenly exclaimed, Ah, the creation Qinglian is gone. The crowd of cultivators glanced over. Indeed, the creation Qinglian had already disappeared from the golden pool, as though it had never appeared. How could that be? The cultivators were bewildered. The two family masters frowned as well. All of a sudden, both of them thought of a possibility. Gulp, gulp. Right then, a few bubbles appeared on the golden water surface. Under the gazes of the cultivators, a figure gradually surfaced. Chapter 1380. Swoosh. The sound of water echoed as a figure walked out of the primordial divine spring drenched. The figure merely shuddered gently and the water vapor around him disappeared. Black hair, green robes and delicate features. His body could be said to be perfect and shone with a green glow. His skin was crystalline as though it was carved from divine jade and a massive life force was about to seep out of his body. His eyes shone brightly with a divine glow. He did not look like a cultivator at all. Instead, he looked like a god that could not be looked at. Just by standing there casually, he emitted a terrifying aura that made one want to prostrate and worship him. The expressions of some conjoint body mighty figures changed when they saw that figure. When the mighty figures met this figure's gaze, they were actually a little scared and subconsciously avoided his gaze. The expressions of the two patriarchs changed slightly as well. The patriarch of the Shimin family narrowed his eyes and his pupils constricted as he said sternly, "Tao Lord Araki Takashi." "I'm Araki Takashi," Su Zimo said slowly. The moment he said that, there was a commotion between the mighty figures of the two aristocratic families. Even for the conjoint body mighty figures present, those words were still rather intimidating. "Have you recovered from your injuries?" The patriarch of the Shimin family swept his gaze across Su Zimo and was secretly shocked as he probed. "I've recovered," Su Zimo said indifferently. "Furthermore, let me correct a mistake of yours. I'm not the Dharma Daojun, I'm a conjoint body mighty figure." The hearts of the two patriarchs skipped a beat. However, the two of them were of high status and possessed powerful combat strength. Even at the conjoint body realm, they were top experts and could maintain their composure against Su Zimo, who had just entered the conjoint body realm. Su Zimo was expressionless as he asked indifferently, "Just now, you guys are the ones who want to kill me?" "I'm the patriarch of the Shimin family, Shimin Tao." Shimin Tao nodded slightly to Araki Takashi. "I am Dongfang Xian, the master of the Dongfang family." Dongfang Xian smiled and said, "Araki Takashi, you must be joking. We're only here for the immemorial godly spring. As long as you step aside, Araki Takashi and Araki Takashi will not make an enemy out of you." Upon knowing that Su Zimo had advanced to the conjoint body realm, Dongfang Xian changed his plan at the last minute and took a step back. "Not bad." Shimin Tao also nodded. Su Zimo raised his eyebrows and asked, "What if I don't?" The faces of the two patriarchs sank. After Su Zimo finished speaking, the temperature in the hall instantly dropped to freezing point. After a long silence, Shimin Tao said slowly, "Araki Takashi, you're alone. You can't protect this primordial divine spring. I've never thought of occupying this divine spring. However, the owner of this divine spring is the Kidami clan, not you guys," Su Zimo said. "The Kidami clan is already dead." Dongfang Xian sneered. "As long as there's a single person from the Kidami clan, you guys can't lay a finger on this divine spring." Su Zimo's tone was calm, but there was an unquestionable power to it. "Araki Takashi, are you trying to start a war with our two families?" Shimin Tao finally revealed an impatient expression and said coldly with killing intent, "You're using the two families to suppress me?" Su Zimo sneered. "I've just advanced to the conjoint body realm and don't want to kill anyone. It's not too late for you guys to leave now. Don't covet this divine spring from now on." "Ha!" Dongfang Xian was so angry that he laughed and shook his head. "Araki Takashi, you're too arrogant. Do you really think that our two families are useless? I heard that Araki Takashi is invincible. It's a rare opportunity to meet you today. It's a good opportunity to witness it." Shimin Tao said coldly as well. "As you wish." Before he could finish his sentence, Su Zimo had already attacked. He strode forward and stomped his feet on the ground, causing the entire hall to shake violently and the ground to explode. "How dare you!" Shimin Tao had not expected that Su Zimo would dare to make the first move despite being surrounded by more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures without any warning. Su Zimo opened his palm and grabbed toward Shimin Tao's head. Su Zimo's fingernails shone with a cold, green glint and were incomparably sharp. Before his palm descended, Shimin Tao felt a sharp pain on his scalp. "You must have a death wish." Shimin Tao roared and his blood qi surged. His gloves shone brightly as he channeled his blood qi and raised his fist, throwing it towards Su Zimo's palm. Su Zimo did not move at all and clenched his fist, colliding heavily against Shimin Tao's. Bang! The fists collided. Accompanied by a deafening bang, a colorful dermic power glow burst forth from the point of collision and extended in all directions. Shimin Tao's expression changed starkly. He was wielding a connate mighty figure dermic weapon in his palm. Initially, he thought that his punch would be able to cripple Su Zimo's arm. However, to think that Su Zimo would be able to defend against his Khanate dermic weapon with his body. How is that possible? Shimantao was shocked and his face flushed red. His blood chi and dermic powers were already pushed to their limits. Is that all you've got? Su Zimo was calm and unmoved as he asked indifferently. All of a sudden, Su Zimo retracted his fist and punched out once more. The moment he punched out, the chi and blood in his body surged. Waves of earth-shattering sounds of tidal waves could be heard, rumbling and trembling. Tsunami blood. After Qinglian's true body transformed, her bloodline had already reached the tsunami blood level. Bang! The two fists collided once more. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from Shimantao's arm. In the blink of an eye, all the bones in his arm shattered, and then suddenly exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist. The power of Su Zimo's punch was way too strong and destroyed one of Shimantao's arms. Ah! Shimantao shrieked and retreated rapidly. 4 conjoint body mighty figures. A severed arm was not considered a serious injury. In the blink of an eye, they could channel dermic powers and regrow it. However, the pain was bone deep. At the same time, the remaining 30-odd conjoint body mighty figures attacked as well. Su Zimo hugged his back gently and shielded Kitsune behind him. Against the incoming dermic arts and dermic weapons, he was fearless as he punched out one after another. Bang, bang, bang. Be it dermic arts or dermic weapons, all of them were repelled by Su Zimo's fists. The crowd was shocked. That was a body of flesh and blood. Araki Takashi, who had entered the conjoint body realm, had actually cultivated his body to such a realm. In reality, the current Su Zimo was a creation Qinglian in human form. Furthermore, it was a grade 7 creation Qinglian whose strength was comparable to Khanate mighty figure dermic weapons. What dermic weapon could hurt him? Su Zimo felt the life force essence in his body rumbling and surging. His organs shone with a divine glow and his flesh was pure and flawless while his bones shone with a green glow. Every time he raised his hand, he would be able to release an unprecedented amount of power. This was not only the force of heaven and earth at the conjoint body realm, but also the power of the grade 7 creation Qinglian herself. Su Zimo had just entered the conjoint body realm and Qinglian's true body had transformed. He was overjoyed and did not even use any dermic arts or secret skills. He defended against more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures' attacks with just a pair of fists. Chapter 1381. Tis. The conjoint body mighty figures present were shocked and felt their scalps tingle. In their eyes, the current Su Zimo was an unstoppable god who was incomparably dignified and could not be offended. It was said that in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, Tao Lord Araki Takashi's clone was the most terrifying in terms of dermic arts, secret skills and heaven and earth dharma characteristic. However, his bloodline was relatively weak and he was not strong in melee combat. But now, Desolate Marshal was already able to fight against them without using any dermic arts or secret skills and was not disadvantaged. Suddenly, Su Zimo laughed. He had just entered the conjoint body realm and was not familiar with the power of the conjoint body realm. Therefore, he was only defending passively and had not taken the initiative to attack. But now, Su Zimo was gradually mastering that power after attacking repeatedly. You want to kill me with that little bit of capabilities? Su Zimo's gaze intensified and he vanished from the spot with a bang. Because his movement technique was too fast, everywhere his figure passed by, the void would distort. Instantly, Su Zimo arrived before a conjoint body mighty figure. His blood chi surged and he raised his hand to punch without any unnecessary movements. The conjoint body mighty figure raised the dermic weapon in his hands and barely defended. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The mighty figure dermic weapon was shattered by Su Zimo's fist. Countless shards flew back and entered the body of the conjoint body mighty figure. Among them, a few shards even pierced his face and penetrated his consciousness, destroying his essence spirit on the spot. The figure fell from midair. A single punch. A conjoint body mighty figure was dead. The hearts of many almighties shuddered when they saw this. At their cultivation realm, they were almost at the peak of Tianhuang mainland. Mahayana patriarchs were in seclusion all year round, and some half-martial ancestors rarely appeared as well. Conjoint body mighty figures were almost considered top experts of the various major sects and factions. But now, everyone felt fear in their hearts when they saw a conjoint body mighty figure killed with a single punch. Cultivation was not easy. Especially at their cultivation realm, none of them wanted to die. However, once this great battle started, they already had no choice. Su Zimo's counterattack had only just begun. Boom! On the battlefield, Su Zimo didn't have any secret techniques or trump cards. He only relied on his physical body and bloodline to rampage around. No one could resist his strength. Or rather, none of the conjoint body mighty figures present could suppress the grade 7 creation Qinglian. Those who went head-to-head with Su Zimo were either killed or injured. The entire hall was dripping with blood, splattering everywhere. Kitsune hid in the depths of the primordial divine spring, afraid that she would be splashed by the blood of these mighty figures. One had to know that the energy contained within a drop of the blood of a mighty figure was enough to regenerate a severed limb. It was enough to easily destroy a perfected Jin Dan. This kind of battle was too far away for Bai Mingshui. However, to be able to witness such a battle between almighties had greatly increased her horizons. Kitsune curled up in a corner of the primordial divine spring, curling her body slightly nervously. Right then, she suddenly felt a strange movement in the water flow beneath the divine spring, as though something was swimming towards her. Bai Mingshui was shocked. She tried her best not to scream. She was afraid that Su Zimo would be affected because of her. With that slight delay, that thing had already arrived beside her and circled around her. It even touched her gently, as though it did not have any ill intentions. What is this? Kitsune felt slightly relieved and looked down. There seemed to be a gigantic oval-shaped stone at the bottom of the divine spring. Its surface was rough and there were mysterious patterns on it. Bai Mingshui subconsciously reached out her hand and carefully touched the stone. The stone did not dodge and even rubbed against Kitsune's palm as though it was sentient. How mysterious! Kitsune lamented internally. It was as though she could sense that the stone's actions were comforting her and telling her to relax and not worry. Boom! Another loud bang came from the main hall. Kitsune looked up instinctively. Another conjoint body mighty figure fell from midair. There was no longer any life force in his body and he was dead. In just a short while, more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures had died in the hands of Su Zimo. Although these people were conjoint body mighty figures, they did not head to Heaven and Earth Valley, nor did they witness that earth-shaking battle personally. It was only at this moment that they felt the fear brought about by Araki Takashi. However, the two family masters did not retreat. Araki Takashi, you're dead meat. Dongfang Xian said coldly, when I heard that there was a primordial divine spring here, I guessed that your cultivation might have recovered. Therefore, I've already informed the half-martial ancestor experts of my family to rush over. Dongfang Xian informed the half-martial ancestor partly because he was worried about Su Zimo and partly because he wanted to prepare for the primordial divine spring. If I'm not wrong, the half-martial ancestor of my Shimen family is here as well. Shimen Tao said slowly, Araki Takashi, the foundation of our ancient aristocratic families is not something you can imagine. If you want to fight against the ancient aristocratic families single-handedly, you're courting death. However, Su Zimo was calm when he heard that the half-martial ancestor was here. He merely raised his brow slightly and said, since the half-martial ancestor is here, there's no need to hide. Let's see who's the one courting death. Araki Takashi, you're too arrogant. Right then, a figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hall as though he appeared out of thin air and walked in slowly. The figure wore simple Taoist robes and looked to be middle-aged. Although he had ordinary looks, he had a lofty aura as he stood there. The moment the middle-aged man appeared, there was a subtle change in the battlefield. Greetings, Elder Ju Ming. When the mighty figures of the Dongfang aristocrat clan, including Dongfang Xian, saw the middle-aged man, they retreated hurriedly and bowed. The Grand Elder of the Dongfang aristocrat clan was also a half-martial ancestor expert, and his Dao title was Ju Ming. Fufu, Araki Takashi, seems like the lesson D fan taught you wasn't enough. Another voice sounded in the hall. An old woman walked in slowly with a hunched back and disheveled hair. She smiled sinisterly with only a few teeth left in her mouth. Greetings, Elder Silver Ring. When Shimen Tao and the others saw the old woman, they were delighted. A half-martial ancestor expert of the Shimen family. In the blink of an eye, the appearance of two half-martial ancestors changed the situation instantly. Even in terms of aura, the two aristocratic families seemed to have the upper hand. Kitsune's heart skipped a beat once more. Although those experts were extremely far away from her, she knew that half-martial ancestors were much stronger than conjoint body mighty figures. However, there was no fear on Su Zimo's face. On the contrary, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes as he smiled gently. Things are different today. I'm already at the conjoint body realm. Aren't you guys way too naive if you think that a mere half-martial ancestor can teach me a lesson? Chapter 1382. Hee. The old woman laughed with a sharp, ear-piercing voice that was extremely unpleasant. Did I hear wrongly? Araki Takashi, are you mocking us for being naive? The old woman glared at Su Zimo with a dark gaze. Seems like you truly know nothing about half-martial ancestor experts. Ju Ming Elder said indifferently as well, Araki Takashi, if you bow down now, I can make the decision to let bygones be bygones. Everyone was shocked. Ju Ming Elder. Dongfang Xian could not help but say, this Araki Takashi killed so many of our conjoint body mighty figures. We can't let him off. Araki Takashi has to pay with his blood. Ju Ming Elder did not say anything and merely glared. Dongfang Xian's heart skipped a beat and he shut his mouth immediately. Ju Ming Elder looked at Su Zimo with a strange glint in his eyes as he said temptingly, Araki Takashi, think about my suggestion. As long as you're willing to bow down and take a step back, I can let you off. You dare to embarrass yourself with such a low-level bewitching technique? Is that all a half-martial ancestor can do? Su Zimo gave a fake smile and looked at Ju Ming Elder as though he was looking at an idiot. He established the Wu Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. His mind and will had already reached a peak, and it was difficult for anyone to affect his mind. Even Demoness Ji, who specialized in bewitching techniques, found it difficult to bewitch him. The only time Su Zimo fell for it was in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. At that time, he was considered to have lost to Monk Daming. However, he still broke free from Monk Daming's illusion later on. Ju Ming Elder said that on purpose to bewitch Su Zimo. As long as Su Zimo hesitated, he would definitely reveal an opening. That would be the opportunity for Ju Ming Elder to attack. However, he did not expect Su Zimo to have such a strong will that he was unmoved. More importantly, now that he was at the conjoint body realm and Qinglian was at grade 7, he no longer had any fear against half-martial ancestors. On the contrary, Su Zimo was eager to give it a try. Ever since the Dao inheritance ground, he had not been able to escape the threat of a half-martial ancestor. D Fan attacked twice and almost took his life. And today, could it be that he had encountered a half-martial ancestor expert? Moreover, it was a half-martial ancestor expert from a super sect. Su Zimo wanted to test the strength of a half-martial ancestor. Ju Ming, why waste your breath on him? Just kill him, the old woman said coldly. She flicked her sleeves and 2 silver lights flew out from them. They emitted a humming sound and arrived before Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. It was a pair of silver rings. It was also the magical artifact that made the old woman famous, indestructible. The blood chi within Su Zimo's body surged, and his gaze was like a torch. Against the dermic weapon of a half-martial ancestor, he had no intention of dodging or retreating. Instead, he raised his arms and clenched them into fists, punching towards the silver rings. You must have a death wish. A vicious glint flashed through the old woman's eyes. When he saw that, Elder Ju Ming shook his head as well. To think that not only is Araki Takashi arrogant, he's also ignorant. To think that he would dare to use his body to receive a half-martial ancestor dermic weapon head-on. Before Elder Ju Ming could finish, a loud bang sounded from midair. Boom. Almost at the same time, his fists collided with a pair of silver rings. Immediately after, the old woman and Su Zimo's expressions changed at the same time. How is that possible? The old woman's turbid eyes widened as she stared at this scene in disbelief. Her dermic weapon did not cripple Su Zimo's hands. Elder Ju Ming could not continue, as well as a look of shock flashed through his eyes. On the other side, Su Zimo frowned as well. The old woman's dermic weapon was clearly much stronger than other mighty figure dermic weapons. Right now, he was a creation Qinglian in human form. A grade 7 creation Qinglian was comparable to a Khanate mighty figure dermic weapon. But now, although he managed to block the pair of silver rings, he felt a sharp pain in his hands and they were slightly numb. Good. The old woman nodded repeatedly. No wonder you're so arrogant. So, you do have some capabilities. After pausing for a moment, the old woman changed the topic. However, if that's all you've got, Araki Takashi's name will be removed from the cultivation world in the future. To tell you the truth, just now, I've only used 70% of my strength. The old woman even laughed sinisterly at the end. Oh, is that so? Su Zimo replied indifferently, I've only used 50% of my strength earlier on. What a sharp tongue. The old woman's expression darkened as she shrieked, Prepare to die. What are you guys waiting for? Go and capture that B** Tisich of the Baiming family back. That B** his definitely has more secrets on her. It had to be said that the old woman was indeed sharp-eyed. The moment Dongfang Xian, Shimin Tao and the others arrived here, it meant that the secrets guarded by the Kidami clan were the creation Qinglian and the primordial divine spring. However, the old woman sensed that something was amiss. In reality, the secret guarded by the Kidami clan was not the primordial divine spring, but a Kuan Pring egg. Elder Destiny stood out as well. With a flick of his wrist, a cold sword appeared in his palm with a menacing sharpness. The moment the sword was revealed, the temperature in the hall plummeted. That sword is called Destiny, Elder Destiny said. Up till this point of my cultivation, there have been countless paragons and monster incarnates who died under Destiny. You, Araki Takashi, are one of them. Before he finished his sentence, Elder Destiny attacked as well. The situation changed instantly. Two half-martial ancestors attacked Su Zimo at the same time. As for Dongfang Xian, Shimin Tao and the other conjoint body mighty figures, they moved one after another and circled around Su Zimo, charging towards Kitsune who was in the primordial divine spring. Any one of them could suppress Kitsune, let alone so many conjoint body mighty figures. Su Zimo's expression turned cold. You guys must have a death wish. Suddenly, Su Zimo roared and channeled his essence spirit. This was the first time he channeled his essence spirit after advancing to the conjoint body realm. His massive spirit consciousness spread and endless dermic powers circled around him. Su Zimo's fingers moved nimbly and changed hand seals repeatedly. He was so fast that afterimages appeared one after another. Great Sanskrit light fist. Flying sand and stone. Apocalyptic fiend fist. Fiend suppression seal, demon subduing seal, immortal trap seal, immovable foundation seal, great Vajra wheel seal and great Mount Meru seal. The great 6 words mantra. Great Ming dermic seal. One after another, dermic arts burst forth from Su Zimo's hands in an earth-shattering manner. The dermic arts that Su Zimo cultivated were the best dermic arts in the cultivation world and were shockingly powerful to begin with. Now that he was at the conjoint body realm, the power of those dermic arts was already unleashed to its limits. None of the dermic arts were aimed at the two half-martial ancestors. Instead, they were aimed at Dongfang Xian, Shimin Tao and the other conjoint body mighty figures. It was as though the apocalypse had arrived and the heavens were collapsing. The entire hull was on the verge of collapse. F***CK, Araki Takashi is crazy. Shimin Tao was shocked and lost his composure for a moment, cursing. He had not expected that Araki Takashi would ignore the two half-martial ancestors and attack them instead. Chapter 1383. How is that possible? The two half-martial ancestors were shocked when they saw that. Even if Suzumo's body could defend against their dermic weapons, they would not be as shocked as they were right now. However, this scene had completely exceeded their understanding. Normally speaking, ordinary cultivators could only release a single dermic art at a time. Some of the stronger paragons could release 2 or 3 dermic arts instantly. For some of the peerless monster incarnates, they might be able to release 5 or 6 dermic arts. This was not just a matter of whether one's essence spirit was strong enough. Instead, there would definitely be a break after releasing a dermic art. The logic was similar to how one would have to retract their fist before punching again if they wanted to punch a second time. What was Suzumo doing, releasing more than 30 top-tier dermic arts in a single breath? Even though the two half-martial ancestors had lived for more than 10,000 years, they had never seen something as such in the cultivation world. If the 30-odd dermic arts were not targeted at Dongfang Xian, Shimintao and the others but were released towards them, they would not have had a good time even though they might not have been able to injure them. Actually, it was normal for the two half-martial ancestors to not know about this. Apart from the fact that the black-haired essence spirit was incomparably pure because it was condensed from the essence of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects, there was an even more important reason why Suzumo could do that. It was the creation Qinglian. The creation Qinglian was an utmost treasure of the universe. Apart from its incomparably powerful strength, it also had many other mysterious aspects. Right now, the creation lotus platform coiled in Suzumo's consciousness and spun slowly beneath the black-haired essence spirit. The lotus petals shone with a divine glow and the 63 lotus holes spewed out rays of light, providing endless power to the black-haired essence spirit. That was the reason why Suzumo was able to release such a ferocious dermic art attack instantly. Actually, back when the creation lotus platform was revived beneath Gu sect, it had already developed such an ability. But now, the creation lotus platform had already transformed into grade 7 and released that power to its limits. The moment it attacked, it was earth-shattering. Araki Takashi, you're courting death. Don't blame us. The old woman said eerily, Ju Ming, don't hold back. Just kill him. Before she finished speaking, the old woman held a pair of silver bracelets in her hands and threw them forward. The silver rings turned into 2 streaks of cold light, instantly arriving in front of Suzumo. At the same time, Ju Ming Elder struck out with his long sword. The sword trembled. In the air, it seemed to have turned into a coiling venomous snake, emitting a cold aura. It bared its venomous fangs and bit at Suzumo. 2 magical artifacts arrived together. This time, the two half-martial ancestors didn't hold back at all. Araki Takashi, who doesn't know how to boast? I'd like to see how much power you have left. The old woman sneered. Just now, Suzumo had blocked the old woman's attack, but he said that he had only used 50% of his strength. How could the old woman believe him? All right, I'll let you witness the capabilities of Araki Takashi. Suzumo's eyes shone brightly and his glabella shone. A green lotus platform flew out with a myriad of green lights that were bedazzling as it collided fiercely against the silver rings and sword. Clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing echoed and sparks flew everywhere. The silver rings revealed their true forms and so did the Ju Ming sword. There was a brief pause. Suddenly, the 3 weapons exploded and turned into streaks of light that were sent flying. Needless to say, the Grade 7 Creation Lotus platform was an utmost treasure of the universe. As for the dermic weapons of the 2 half-martial ancestors, their powers were far greater than supreme dermic weapons as well. The power released when the 3 weapons collided was way too terrifying. If not for the Creation Lotus platform, even Khanate Mighty Figure's dermic weapons would have been smashed into smithereens. Bang, bang, bang. Right then, the 30-odd top-tier dermic arts that Suzumo released just now had already descended and collided against the attacks of Dongfang Xian, Shimintao and the others. There was a deafening bang. Some conjoint body mighty figures could survive against relatively weak dermic arts such as the Fiend Suppression Seal, Demon Subduing Seal and Immortal Trap Seal, and only collapse to the ground with severe injuries. However, some conjoint body mighty figures were shattered on the spot against dermic arts such as the Great Meru Seal and Great Vajrawheel Seal. Some conjoint body mighty figures might be struck by 2 or even 3 dermic arts. They would explode on the spot and turn into a blood mist without a corpse. Their essence spirit was destroyed. The outcome of this battle was decided in the blink of an eye. Although it was short, it was extremely shocking. Corpses were strewn all over the battlefield and blood dripped in an extremely tragic manner. Kitsune's mouth was agape and her beautiful eyes were widened. She had already forgotten to breathe. More than half of the remaining 20 conjoint body mighty figures were killed by Su Zimo in a single attack. There were only 4 or 5 people left, including Dongfang Xian and Shimintao. Among them, there were 2 almighties who did not seem to be able to survive. Their life auras were rapidly fading away. If not for the fact that the 2 patriarchs possessed some life-saving talismans and methods, they would have died on the spot just now. The 2 patriarchs trembled and looked at Su Zimo with fear in their eyes. Araki Takashi. When she saw that, the old woman's eyes widened and she grit her teeth in hatred. Although there were still conjoint body mighty figures in the Shimen family, the losses today were way too great. The lifespan of a mighty figure was only 20,000 years. Even with 20,000 years of accumulation, Araki Takashi had killed that many. The old woman was murderous. When she saw that her attack had missed, she did not give Su Zimo any chance to catch his breath and attacked once more. She conjured strange hand seals with both hands and a shuddering power coiled in her palms. She waved her withered palms forward and a cold light flashed past. It was silent like a cold moon and emitted a bone-chilling aura. Buzz, buzz. Wherever the cold moon passed, tiny cracks would appear in the void. Even the void could not withstand the power of the cold moon. Su Zimo's pupils constricted slightly. The power of the cold moon seemed to have surpassed the scope of dermic powers. Su Zimo's hairs stood on end. Could it be? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Right then, Elder Ju Ming channeled his spirit consciousness wildly and conjured a sword art, tapping gently towards Su Zimo. A cold light burst forth from Elder Ju Ming's fingertip. It was neither fast nor slow. However, that cold light emitted an extremely dangerous aura. Araki Takashi, you have to pay the price for your arrogance and ignorance. Elder Ju Ming said coldly, although half-martial ancestors have yet to enter the Mahayana realm, they can kill conjoint body mighty figures with ease. That's because half-martial ancestors have already comprehended a trace of divine powers. Su Zimo was enlightened and no longer had any doubts. There was a saying that had been passed down since the ancient era. Spirit energy was inferior to dermic powers and dermic powers were inferior to divine powers. Just now, Su Zimo sensed that the power released by the old woman and Elder Ju Ming seemed to have surpassed the scope of dermic powers. There was only a single possibility. Divine powers. Although it was only a trace of divine powers, it was stronger and more terrifying than any dermic art. Chapter 1384. Although it was only a trace of the power of divine powers, it was enough to create an insurmountable gap between a half-martial ancestor and a conjoint body mighty figure. Although it was only a trace of the power of divine powers, the void in the hall could no longer withstand it and even created slight cracks. Araki Takashi, let's see what else you have up your sleeves. The old woman shrieked with a ruthless expression. At that moment, Araki Takashi had just released more than 30 top-tier dermic arts and it would be difficult for him to release a second time within a short period of time. As for the Creation Lotus platform, it was sent flying and embedded into the wall of the hall because of the collision just now. There was no way it could rush over to save him. Against the attacks of 2 half-martial ancestors and the power of divine powers that filled the air, Su Zimo did not seem to have any methods to defend against them. The old woman and the suicide elder were waiting for Su Zimo to die. However, the 2 of them looked at Su Zimo and suddenly felt uneasy. Su Zimo was way too calm. It did not seem like the despair of surrendering despite knowing that he was going to die. It was as though Su Zimo still had something to rely on. How is that possible? The two of them denied it immediately. Even if Araki Takashi had any other trump cards, how could he defend against the power of divine powers? The two half-martial ancestors refused to believe it. Right then, Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and the blood chi in his body surged, pushing his bloodline to its limits instantly. Rumble. The sound of tsunami blood was deafening. He really doesn't know what's good for him if he thinks that he can defend against the power of divine powers with just tsunami blood. The old woman sneered and was relieved. Right then, the suicide elder's expression changed as he exclaimed, "Something's not right." The old woman noticed something amiss as well and could not help but widen her eyes. Through their senses, Su Zimo's power of blood chi was still rising after channeling tsunami blood without any signs of stopping. Could it be? The hearts of the two half-martial ancestors skipped a beat. Immediately after, they saw an incomparably shocking scene. A crystalline jade-green lotus appeared behind Su Zimo and surged into the skies, as though it was about to burst through the entire hall. It shone brightly and shone with 1,000 streaks of auspicious colors. Divine light filled the air as it flickered with life. This, the old woman's lips quivered and she could not continue. Bloodline phenomenon. The life-severing elder uttered these words with great difficulty. Above the tide of blood was the bloodline phenomenon. Since ancient times, there were extremely few cultivators who could cultivate a bloodline phenomenon in every generation, and they were all top monster incarnates of their respective sex and das. Throughout history, no one had ever ranked the bloodline phenomenon ranking. This was because there were simply too few cultivators who could cultivate the bloodline phenomenon. Those who could cultivate it were practically invincible in the same realm. Who would care about ranking? However, there were strong and weak bloodline phenomena as well. For example, the bloodline phenomenon produced by the true bodies of dragons that cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness was extremely terrifying. The butterfly shadow that was condensed at the end was even stronger and had yet to meet a match for it. As for Su Zimo's bloodline phenomenon, it was extraordinary as well. It was a grade 7 creation Qinglian. After advancing to the conjoint body realm this time round, the Qinglian's true body transformed and expelled all the impurities in her body, turning her body and bloodline extremely pure. It was only logical that she could condense a bloodline phenomenon. The two half-martial ancestors glared at Su Zimo. In a daze, Su Zimo's figure seemed to have vanished. In front of them, there was only a creation Qinglian that connected the heavens and earth, swaying and emitting an extremely terrifying power. At that moment, the power of their two divine powers descended and collided violently against the creation Qinglian. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The entire space seemed to have frozen. Kitsune felt a piercing pain in her ears and could no longer hear anything. Before long, her 5 senses disappeared. It was only because the water in the divine spring surged and the stone emitted a strange power that she gradually regained her senses and snapped back to her senses. Rumble! The palace was on the verge of collapse. Countless gravel rolled down and dust filled the air. Pitch-black cracks appeared in the void at the point of collision, emitting a cold aura as though they could devour everything. The power shattered the void. They were evenly matched. Su Zimo's bloodline phenomenon defended against the power of 2 divine powers. Of course, that was only the power of a half-martial ancestor's divine power. It was only a trace and was negligible against true divine powers. Dongfang Xian and Shimin Tao hid in a corner and gradually came to their senses when they saw that. Just now, the creation Qinglian that they saw outside the hall was not a treasure. It was the mighty figure Araki Takashi. In midair, Su Zimo's figure reappeared and he took a few steps back. The two half-martial ancestors retreated continuously as well. Both of them were pale. On the surface, it seemed like they were evenly matched in this head-on clash. However, the old woman and the suicide elder were clearly at a disadvantage. The old woman was close to 20,000 years old. Even if she was a half-martial ancestor and could live past 20,000 years, she would not be able to live for much longer. Her blood chi was already deteriorating. The suicide elder was relatively young. However, no matter how young the two half-martial ancestors were, they could not compare to Su Zimo. Their physiques and bloodlines were worlds apart compared to Su Zimo. The two half-martial ancestors suffered a slight loss in that clash. Of course, that slight loss did not affect the half-martial ancestors at all. Araki Takashi, why? The old woman glared at Su Zimo and wanted to say something more, but she could not. Su Zimo had once said that he only used 50% of his strength. That was not an exaggeration at all. The two half-martial ancestors exchanged glances and could see deep fear in each other's eyes. There was also a hint of fear mixed within that fear. Araki Takashi had just entered the conjoint body realm. Even so, Araki Takashi's combat strength was comparable to a half-martial ancestor. The two half-martial ancestors were indignant. However, the two of them knew that with Araki Takashi around, it would be difficult for them to fight for the primordial divine spring today. The only thing they could do now was to leave as soon as possible and rush back to their clans so that the other half-martial ancestors of their clans could come out and kill Araki Takashi. Haha. Right then, a loud laughter sounded from outside the hall. I heard that Araki Takashi is the #1 monster incarnate of history. Now that I've met you today, I know that the rumors are true. A middle-aged man strode in with an extraordinary aura. He looked at Su Zimo in midair and cupped his fists. I am Nangong Li, the family master of the Nangong family. Greetings, fellow Taoist Araki Takashi. Behind Nangong Li stood more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures. Nangong Ling was among them as well. The Nangong family had arrived as well. Su Zimo nodded slightly and asked indifferently, Nangong family, are you here to fight for the primordial divine spring as well? Nangong Li, you're only here now because you want to reap the benefits. You've truly schemed well. Dongfang Xian said hatefully. Nangong Li smiled gently and ignored Dongfang Xian. He merely said to Su Zimo, fellow Taoist Araki Takashi, you've misunderstood. My Nangong family will definitely not be enemies with you and the Kidami clan. Chapter 1385. Right then, another group of cultivators walked in from outside the hall. Some of them were members of the Kidami clan, including Baiming Ao. Little brother? Kitsune frowned slightly. Didn't I tell you guys to leave as soon as possible? Why you guys back? Baiming Ao explained hurriedly when he saw that Kitsune was a little angry. We wanted to leave initially, but we were ambushed by some cultivators from the Shimen family and Dongfang family before we could get far. Thankfully, the experts of the Nangong family arrived and saved us. The Kidami clan's leader nodded as well. If not for that, the Kidami clan would have been annihilated. Sigh. Kitsune was secretly shocked when she heard that. Who would have thought that after the Dongfang and Shimen aristocratic families learned of the Baiming clan's secret, they didn't hesitate at all and directly exterminated the Baiming clan. Thank you, seniors of the Nangong family. Kitsune bowed deeply to Nangong Li and the others. She knew in her heart that the Nangong family was only willing to help because of her master. Even so, this was still a great favor. Well said, well said. Nangong Li smiled gently and said, Lass, get up. There's no need to be so polite. Nangong Ling dodged hurriedly when he saw Kitsune bowing towards him. Although his cultivation was higher than Kitsune's, he could not accept Kitsune's bow due to his seniority. Su Zimo's expression eased slightly as well. Nangong Li, as the leader of the Nangong family, how could you help the remnants of the Baiming family? Does the Grand Elder of the Nangong family know about this? Elder Ju Ming asked slowly. Of course, I know about it. Right then, an old man walked in slowly with a dragon-headed walking stick. It was the half-martial ancestor expert of the Nangong family, Elder Lan Tian. Lan Tian. The old woman's expression was ruthless as she scolded, What do you mean? Araki Takashi has already revealed all his trump cards. As long as the three of us work together, we can suppress him. When the time comes, Our three great families can share the primordial divine spring equally. Why not? Elder Lan Tian shook his head and sighed. Ju Ming, Silverhoop, stop. Stop! The old woman shrieked. This Araki Takashi brat, how many people has he killed from our two great families? Today, 30 conjoint body mighty figures died in his hands. You want us to stop? Since Araki Takashi has chosen to wage war against our two great families, don't even think about leaving the southern mountain range alive. The Ju Ming elder looked at the old woman coldly and said, let's go. The two of them had already made up their minds. They would leave this place and rush back to their clans at the first possible moment to invite the other half-martial ancestor experts from their clans. According to their estimations, 5 quasi-ancestors would be sufficient to surround and kill Araki Takashi. Who allowed you guys to leave? Right then, Su Zimo suddenly said. Although his tone was calm, it was filled with cold, killing intent. The old woman and the Ju Ming elder paused in their tracks and were stunned. Immediately, a mocking look flashed through the eyes of the two half-martial ancestors. Fufu. The Ju Ming elder could not help but laugh and shake his head. But, you want to stop us? I admit that you, Araki Takashi, have the strength to fight against us right after advancing to the conjoint body realm. However, you're dreaming if you want to stop us. This time round, even Elder Lan Tian agreed with the Ju Ming elder. In his opinion, Su Zimo and the two half-martial ancestors were evenly matched in combat strength and neither of them could do anything to the other. If the two half-martial ancestors wanted to leave, Su Zimo would not be able to stop them. However, Elder Lan Tian had a special status and could not easily start a war with the half-martial ancestors of the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families. Otherwise, the situation would escalate and there was a high chance that a war between the aristocratic families would break out. The consequences would be unimaginable. You guys can leave if you want, Su Zimo said indifferently. However, the two of you have to swear a solemn oath in front of me that you will not take revenge on the Kidami clan in the future. If you violate that oath, you will be destroyed by the heavens and earth. The Ju Ming elder was so angry that he laughed instead. You actually want us to swear an oath for you? Araki Takashi, brat, who do you think you are? The old woman could not help but curse as well. You weren't even born when we became famous. Are you worthy of us swearing an oath? The two half-martial ancestors had lived for so long and had never received such treatment. In their opinion, Su Zimo's words were an insult to them. The two of them did not realize that Su Zimo was truly giving them a way out and a choice. Since you guys aren't willing to swear an oath, don't leave. Su Zimo moved and charged towards the Ju Ming elder and the old woman. Let's go. The Ju Ming elder and the old woman did not want to be entangled with Su Zimo. The two of them shouted softly and turned to speed out of the hall. All of a sudden, a shuddering killing intent descended and the temperature in the hall plummeted. Even the two half-martial ancestors felt as though a great calamity was imminent. The Ju Ming elder and the old woman sped while looking behind them. The moment they did, they saw an incomparably shocking scene. Su Zimo conjured a sword art with both hands and a series of bedazzling sword chi burst forth from his body. They were densely packed and numbered in the tens of thousands. The two half-martial ancestors were shocked and their pupils constricted violently. Heaven-slaying sword chi. Everywhere they looked was filled with heaven-slaying sword chi. Although the heaven-slaying sword chi was extremely powerful, it could not injure a half-martial ancestor who had comprehended a trace of divine powers. However, the heaven-slaying sword chi that Su Zimo released was not just 1 or 2 or 1,000, there were tens of thousands of them. The sheer amount of heaven-slaying sword chi caused the world to tremble and almost sliced the void into pieces, cutting off the two half-martial ancestors' paths of retreat. The Ju Ming elder and the old woman felt a piercing pain in their eyes and tears flowed uncontrollably. Even Elder Lan Tian, who was outside the battlefield, was shocked and retreated instinctively, afraid that he would be implicated, let alone them. The tens of thousands of heaven-slaying sword chi released a destructive might that could destroy the world. Clang, clang, clang. The old woman and the Ju Ming elder were still fighting with all their might. They controlled their destiny-dermic weapons and released countless talismans as trump cards to defend against the incoming sword chi. However, there were simply too many sword chi, and it almost formed a sea of swords that stirred up raging waves that devoured the two half-martial ancestors. A blood mist spewed out. At that moment, the two patriarchs, Dongfang Xian and Shimin Tao, were curled up in a corner and were completely dumbfounded. Their bodies trembled slightly and they no longer had the bearing of the patriarchs of aristocratic families. The two patriarchs finally felt how terrifying Araki Takashi was. This fear would accompany them for the rest of their lives like a nightmare that could not be erased. Before long, the two bloodied figures fell to the ground from midair. Their auras were weak and their bodies were lacerated with countless wounds by the heaven-slaying sword chi. Their flesh was rotten and they were unrecognizable. Half-martial ancestor experts were indeed powerful and had exuberant vitality. Despite being severely injured against the attacks of the tens of thousands of heaven-slaying sword chi, they did not die immediately and were still hanging on. Of course, the consciousness of the two half-martial ancestors was already shattered and penetrated by the sword chi. Their essence spirits were also injured by the sword chi and could not survive. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.